Everyone. I hope I'm able to be heard nice and clear. It looks like StreamYard is kind of shaky this evening. I don't know what's going on with the StreamYard. I was just trying to speak to the customer service help to see what's going on. And
Is
they
it
have
raining
all
over
these
there?
different options and solutions that don't even work.
Is it raining
But
over there where you at?
but nevertheless, yeah, I'm talking right now, trying to introduce the show. Can you hear me?
I hear you. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So tonight we have Chief ElRaTaWa. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And we got Wasar from St. Lucia chiming in as well, and Kufu Heru. I guess David will be here momentarily. He said he didn't see the link, but that's a whole nother situation. So, Rafi, I don't know if you are in front of your computer right now, if you're ready right now.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, and you said my name properly. I'm ready to go when you are.
Okay, Rafi. Okay. Can you hear me clear or do I sound far away?
Nah, you're perfect. Perfect.
Okay, good. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about ancient American empires, right?
Oh yeah, we finna get into it.
And can you also touch on every holiday that we have here in America is lined with the celestial bodies and the
Absolutely.
constellations. So,
Yes.
because I know we just had a Memorial Day, we just had a 4th of July. Before
Right.
that, we had the Passover. So maybe you can start from the Passover, Memorial Day,
Mm.
and 4th of July. We can do those
Hmm.
three. And before we start talking about the ancient American empires, because I saw your video on that and I was like, you know what, this makes sense because they are definitely tapping into some higher frequencies that have things going their way all these thousands of years. You know what I mean? It has to be
Exactly.
something deeper than just, I want my independence for the 4th of July. That independence is lined up with the celestial body. So they're grabbing more power. And even though we know that there was still, well, some people know, and some people are still finding out that there was still slaves during 1776, 4th of July, people still go out and celebrate, knowing that
Yeah.
it had nothing to do with us. That's between
Yeah.
Great British and the Americans that converted from being English to America. You know what I mean? It really have nothing
Uh-huh.
to do with our story. So
Yeah.
I think that even touching on that is good because people feel like, oh, the 4th of July is when slavery ended, and that's, technically a black holiday, Independence Day for ending of slavery, and it has nothing to do with slavery. Frederick Douglass' speech even explained that. This is about the English Americans and the Great Britain in England. It has nothing to do with us.
Hmm.
So anyway, if you want to, you can start with the Easter Passover science or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that introduction. I also just want to reintroduce myself. I'm Rafi Ratawa Smith, and I'm the creator of Autochthons of America. Uh, that's just my little
Right.
foundation that I wanted to create to introduce the importance of history and knowing your identity as to who you are and where you are. And so I created this platform to reach the youth and to educate my people in the importance of who they are. And yeah, let's get into it. So Passover and Easter, I want to begin. We can begin with July 4th though, because since we just passed that a couple weeks ago. So July 4th is actually a significant day in the cosmos, in the celestials, because Sirius, which is the brightest star in our solar system, aligns with the Earth and the Sun during this time between July 1st and July 5th. And so that's what's so important and significant, and why the powers that be place these holidays on these astronomical days. So that's why it's aligned for that reason,
Right.
because that portal opens and that energy opens up. And so they want to harness that energy of Sirius and becoming aligned with yourself and your divine self.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people aren't aware of that, and they miss that whole they just miss that whole point in their celebration. They don't understand that they're celebrating something totally different than what they think is the founding of the United States. That's not really the celebration for July 4th. That's the celebration is
Exactly.
the celebration is of these stars aligning with the earth, and that energy presents itself, and so they hop on that train of energy to exert their specific influence. So on various holidays, that's the true significance behind July 4th cosmologically. Okay. I guess we're waiting on the sister to come back on. I can keep going, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead and keep going, brother.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the next one I wanted to hit on was Easter and the significance behind that cosmologically. So Easter, as we know, is actually they try to land that on the first full moon, like just after the uh spring equinox. So that's like the celebration, and they're trying to channel that energy of the equinox, and then they want to use it to bring forth whatever ritual they have in mind. And so that's just, people need to understand that it's all a ritual. Every single holy day, you call it a holiday. Holy day is all rooted in, if you want to call it, for lack of better words, a pagan tradition, because that's just the origin of Christianity. So July 4th, that's alignment with the Sirius constellations. Easter, that's aligning with the full moon energy and the vernal equinox. And what other one did you want me to touch on here? I believe I'm missing one more event, holiday.
I would say Halloween is definitely
Ooh, that's a
should be
good one.
added in there. So
Ooh, yeah.
I would just add on Halloween and
Was
Hallow Eves, but
day.
that was just a suggestion. That's all.
No, yeah, I like Halloween, because that's a good one. So Halloween lands on what is known as a cross quarter day. So this is a day that is exactly between an equinox and a solstice. So Halloween, that cross quarter day energy, that just basically stands for the portal of, you know, dealing with the Day of the Dead, channeling that portal where the veil is thin, so you can actually see on the so-called other side and reconnect with your ancestors on that ancestral realm. So yeah, that's Halloween is definitely another significant holy day that uses energy of the cosmos.
I agree. I agree to it. I agree that these holidays are like really just it's always a deeper meaning to than scratch this, than the surface. It's always a deeper meaning to stuff. And most things are symbolic and, like you said, ritualistic. And they be having us doing things and having us doing certain rituals and things of that nature, not even really knowing what we're doing. You know, we think it's just fun. We think it's just um, something that people do
Oh, my mic is
on certain
muted.
days.
My mic is on mute, and I can't get it off.
I hear you now. Your mic still muted, or well, I can hear you.
Oh, it was Memorial Day, the other holiday.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I missed that last question. You went in and out.
Yeah, it was Memorial Day. It was the Easter Passover. You have your mic on, so we can't hear you. I was just trying to get my mic off, and it was taking forever. I'm not talking about my mic. I'm talking about Rafi's mic is still on.
Wait, is it on right now? Oh, okay, okay. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, I was trying to tell you that your mic was on,
okay.
so I don't know if you were speaking.
Mm, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
it keeps
around
going off and
May.
on. So I don't know if you can, but we can't hear anything you were saying. But I was saying the other.
Okay, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear
Can
you.
you hear me now? Okay,
Yes, we hear you.
perfect. All right. Now, Memorial Day, I haven't actually done the research on that specific day. So, but understanding where it falls on around May, the end of May,
Hmm.
we could probably just go in alignment with the energies of that are present during that time, and
Right.
as far as like the Taurus energy, and with the zodiac signs and how they coincide with the energy present. Mm.
Okay. But if you want to move over into the other topic, you can, because I think that's basically the three holidays that I was referencing it to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to step away from the mic real quick, but you can go into the ancient empires if you want.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. So, I have about three I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, and I guess we could begin on North America. So we could deal with the Powhatan Confederacy. So this is the group of indigenous people who were first, who first met John Smith when he arrived in New England in 1606 or 1605. And this is also where, based on the story of so-called Pocahontas, right? The story and myth, which is really a fable because how they portray it, as far as this young, she was a young adult, but she wasn't even a young adult in the actual story. She was really 13 or 12 when she first met this Englishman, and he began trying to court her for not for romantic purposes, but to gain access to the tribe and to weaken the tribe, right? To get to her father, who is Powhatan, which is what is the tribe is named after Chief Powhatan. And the Powhatan Confederacy was actually one of the largest uh, confederacies of indigenous nations during that time frame, with about 30 odd tribes that he had made into a sort of conglomerate, and they were all paying homage and tribute, and he was actually providing protection, by and food and giving them making safety for the tribes because they were a part of his confederation. And that was actually one of, like I said, the largest empires during that time frame in the 1600s in North America. And that, if you're familiar with the wars that was going on, the Indian Wars, that was actually one of the wars, the Anglo-Indian Wars, that was between the Powhatan Confederacy and these Europeans trying to invade and take over the land. Right. So after we gave them food, we taught them how to grow their own food. We taught them how to, pretty much just provide for themselves in this so-called new world for them, which is really the old world for us. And they took advantage of our kindness, and so that's what led. Yeah, so that's what led to just that Anglo war between us and these foreign powers.
So
And I just also want to, yes, go ahead.
No, say what you was going to say.
No, I just want to also note how vast the empire and just some of the roles that we played in how we were able to grow our own food on such a massive scale to support and to be able to support this group of indigenous people, which is like 50,000 people, was a part of the Confederacy. And he had to feed all of these people, right, and bathe and clothe them. So there was actually the agricultural techniques that were implemented was actually very highly advanced. So they were doing how they were cultivating their food. They were growing their growing techniques, such as what do they call it? The Three Sisters. That's a form of companion planting where they're growing multiple plants in one location. So they're utilizing the most soil. So they're getting the most harvest and reaping the most harvest out of just such a small amount of land. And that's just one of the agricultural techniques they use to actually provide for the people.
So what was that? The lima beans, corn, and another
And the squash, right?
And the squash, yeah.
Right. And they will grow those together. And then also alongside with that, they would also have their nut trees. So like the acorn trees, they would actually ground their meal up and create like a flour out of the acorn, once they ground it up. Because you can actually eat acorn raw as well. So it's a lot of the native plants that they were utilizing that's still here today. We think are ornamental, but they're actually edible,
Right.
Did you have any questions or?
I'm listening right now.
Okay, sweet. Let me see here. I would advise everyone to look into the Powhatan Confederacy themselves, and so they can also just learn about just the vastness of the empire and just get a little detailed more views. I just wanted to lightly touch on it before I move on to the next empire.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Okay. So the next American empire I want to speak about was the what some people call the Inca Empire. So that's a exonym, and an exonym is just a name of a place that's applied by foreigners to a other group of people. So that means that's not their original name. So the original name of the Inca is the Tonachka people, right? Who are of and they call it their land or empire Tenochtitlan, and that is located in South America. And I want to speak about the Tonachka Empire because even though we some people are familiar with the Tonachka, and also just to clarify, Inca isn't like a foreign word completely. Inca is actually the name of the royal, or let's say like the emperor of the empire. So that's the specific name of nobility. So like Inca.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not everybody as an Inca. Um, also have a video I
So
want to see if
so
I.
these Inca people,
Uh
okay. So these Inca people, are these the people that crossed over the Bering Strait Bridge
huh. That's a good one.
during a certain time period? Or like are they phenotype more like you and I, or they have the more Asian Siberian phenotype?
Mm, that's a good one. I want to see if I can pull up some images of the Tenochca. But no, the Tenochca people are actually they actually look more like you and I versus somebody from crossing the Bering Strait from Siberia or Asia. There was actually, from my knowledge, um, there was three migrations of peoples who moved from Asia to America, and then there was also the three major groups of people that were in South America. So, like they'll tell you, the Inca, the Aztec, and the Olmec, right? And from my knowledge, the Inca looked like they didn't migrate from the Bering Strait, and neither did the Olmec. Probably only I probably wouldn't even classify any of those three groups as coming from the Bering Strait based on their phenotype because some of them may be slightly Oriental in looking, but for the most part, their features resemble so-called Negroid. So
Yeah, well, the Olmec were actually one of the most ancient. They're actually of the Nubian stock. Like a lot of they're actually of the Nubian stock. They were the ones that brought the knowledge of pyramid building from the Nile Valley to the Americas. So, and they were the ones that taught the Inca and a lot of those Asiatic phenotype people a lot of their sciences, and that's why there are similarities. That's why there are pyramids here. So yeah, I would agree about I would agree that, and then through crossbreeding they got, you know what I mean, they got a little, they they mixed and married each other and had offspring, and that's how the cultures merged. But there definitely were people of who had ancestry from the continent that we call Africa, that was actually inhabited the Americas before the Asiatics came over. You know what I mean? So um, I would agree on that to that extent. So yeah, the Olmecs were of the Nubian stock though. They share they have ancestry from the continent of what we call Africa. And they came over here thousands of years before um, these people calling themselves Indians or indigenous or Native whatever whatever names people call themselves now. They were actually here before that. So you know it's a lot of people saying that they ancestors never came from Africa, but in reality, they did come from Africa. They just came much, much later than, um, the slave trade. Way before there was a slave or a Christopher Columbus or whatever. Like there was already, you know, melanated people living here, thriving. And so yeah, I do agree with that. To that extent.
Yes, I blessed. Greetings, Uncle Jacined.
Uncle Joshua,
Yes.
brother.
Yeah, this is a very interesting topic at this time because um, there has been recently an upsurge of a lot of African people claiming to be indigenous and have no ties to Africa. And
That's
this
that's
has,
why I mentioned that. That's why, not to cut you off, brother, but that's why I mentioned that they were actually of the Nubian stock. You know what I mean? To make because it's like people are saying, and
I
I'm not
think
saying this
I
brother
think
right
what
here.
people are saying, I think what people are trying to say is that they didn't come through the slave trade.
They're
Because the
saying that.
only time black people identify with Africa is because of slavery. You understand what I'm
They,
saying?
yeah,
Not understanding that they came before Columbus, they came before the slave trade. They were, the back and forth, getting in the trade winds and circumnavigating the waters, traveling back and forward. So people have a problem with saying that their ancestry comes from the slave trade. That's
it's yeah,
a lot of um, observation that I'm getting, that people have a problem with saying that their ancestors come from Africa via slave trade.
it's actually more. It's actually that's true, but it's actually gotten a little even. If you know this cat called Dan Calloway, right? It's this dude named Dan Calloway. He's very popular. He's basically saying that there ain't even wasn't even a slave trade. He's basically saying that people calling themselves African are actually and some people say indigenous, some people say Native American, Indian, or they got like these different classifications. But like Brother Wasar is saying, there is a new movement of people claiming to not have any type of African lineage at all. Not even, it's beyond the slave trade. They say that we not Africans, just because we got brown skin doesn't mean we're Africans. And we've already been, our ancestors never came from Africa. They've actually been, and then they even say that humanity started in the Americas and didn't start. They don't believe in the out of Africa theory. They don't. They say the pyramids that are built here are actually older than the pyramids in Africa and Nubia. Like it's a little. It's I'm not necessarily saying this brother right here. I don't know him and his information, or I'm not saying that it's him. I'm just kind of like veggie backing, so to speak, of what Wasar is saying, because it is a group of people that's a growing group of people of African descent actually saying, no, I'm not African at all. Like my ancestors been here the whole time, and
well, you see
we're
in the Caribbean,
we're the Indians. Like they're calling themselves Americans. They're calling themselves, we're the original Native Americans, and we're not Africans, and we've been here. Our ancestors never come from Africa. They just been here. and we don't have any African blood in us. Basically, like it's yeah.
I do want
It's
to add something when you finish, brother.
no. Go ahead. I'm finished.
Okay. So I just want to clarify my stance so y'all understand who I am and where I'm coming from. So yes, like the brother Kufu was saying, there is a certain group of individuals who, when they're claiming and they discover, generally they discover their genealogy, and because they do the genealogy work, they discover that when you do your genealogy and you're tracing back your heritage and your family line, you're finding more American Indians than you do Africans. And so that may cause a certain people to say, hey, okay, I don't see any Africans in my bloodline, so why should I identify as African? That's just that certain little group. Me personally,
Right.
I don't agree with that, because I understand that, yes, the transatlantic trade, which was a trade of war prisoners, individuals captured in war and sold because of war, right? And I understand that there were actually Africans that were sent over here to America. So my stance is no, I'm not discounting that that trade ever did not happen. It did. However, I am saying that it was highly exaggerated, and less than 5%. The number is actually around 3% of the Africans only came to what is known as the United States. And with that being said, that's because they were actually using the so-called Native Americans and reclassifying them as African, or they were just in combining them in groups, because
Hmm.
all
Because of
melanin,
dark
there's a
skin.
melanated group. I'll go ahead.
No, I was like, yeah, because of dark skin, because of the dark skin
Exactly.
tone.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there was like the 1682 Virginia law. They classified Americans, Indians, and Africans into one group. So who are you? If they combine you into one specific category as Negro, who are you? And so that's why that group, I'm assuming that group may be like they don't claim African, but that's not my stance. And then as far as Kufu, brother Kufu was saying how there's a group of people claiming that Africa isn't the motherland. You got to understand that the out of Africa theory is a relatively new theory. Before the out of Africa theory got its roots in the 1960s, it was the out of Asia theory, and that was the predominant theory of civilization as we know it, originating. And so that's why, if you're familiar with the Nation of Islam, you understand why he said he's the Asiatic black man, because Asia was the origin of civilization. So that's why from my observation and from my knowledge and from my years of research, I discovered that out of the Africa theory isn't actually true. There's actually ancient civilizations that predate any type of civilization in Africa, in Asia, and then also
And wait,
here
let
in
me
the
ask you,
Western Hemisphere.
where is these? You got it. I would like to see proof of that, because because it's a proven fact that the oldest fossils, human fossils found. You can't show me something
I
that's
gotta
older.
stop you right there. I
Show
gotta stop you
no
right
no
there,
no.
brother.
Show me no
Let
no
me
you
stop you right there. You said
no
human fossil. There
no
is no
no.
human fossils ever
Okay.
found that go back older than any type of number you're throwing out.
I
The
would like for
human
you to
fossil,
show
the
me.
human
Wait, let me let
fossil
me
you're
let me say
calling
you this.
human.
You show me.
Okay,
I would
go
like for
ahead,
you to
brother.
show me. I would like for you to show me a civilization older than like the civilization from Point or Nubia. Show me a
I can do
civilization.
that. I can do
Yeah,
that.
let me see that. Let me
I
see
can do
that.
that.
Because I
Okay,
totally disagree with that. And the out of Africa theory is actually proven to be true.
that's not
Right?
true. That's not
Okay.
true.
Okay. Show me something
But
older.
you got to remember that Asia, India,
Is
Africa,
part of
it,
Africa.
it was one
So
family.
it's
So
yeah.
they
So
didn't
it's
see each
like
other as
that's that.
Jamaican, Haitian,
Yeah. That doesn't.
Trinidadian. It was a one family thing. And then the continents, as they start emerging away from each other, you understand what I'm saying?
Hold,
Environment and over
hold on.
time, I felt like things start kind of evolving to be conducive to where they're living. You
Hold
know?
on,
Yeah.
hold on.
Yeah.
When we talk about the continental drift, we talk about a time before human beings were even on the planet.
Yeah, that's true.
Now,
Yeah.
first
I know Kowashidi
first I
said
want
that.
to ask the brother, how many books has he read on that subject?
Well, he
Oh,
was
you're
going to
asking
show.
me?
He
Yeah.
was going to
You're
show.
asking me? Oh,
Yeah.
I've read at least over, I want to say, 100 books on the subject of ancient archaeology, right? Prehistoric and just archaeology that spans beyond the millenniums that you would currently associate with man arising.
What tests? Can you name me the tests they use to date the bones?
Ooh,
And
that's a good one.
archaeology too.
That's a good
And
one. So, as you know, if you're familiar with archaeology, if you want to take it there, we can go there. So,
let's go.
if you're speaking about carbon dating and you want to try to, you can't carbon date of certain fossils using that theory, right? If they go back beyond the span of a certain time frame. So then you have to use radium. So radium carbon dating.
Yeah, there's radiocarbon. There's also amino acid dating.
Right. Right. There's amino acid dating, and then there's radium, and then there's radiocarbon dating. So, and that's where it gets sketchy at. So we can't really date exactly because of the sketchiness of the instruments being used. And I just want to refer to you a few books that you can use in your own time to understand that the whole out of Africa theory was actually not true. So there's a book called Forbidden Archaeology by let me get the author so I don't mess up his name. There's a book, Forbidden Archaeology. That is one I'm going to tell everyone that they should read right off the top.
And then you got to do research on the author too. You can't just believe it because you got to do research on the author too, and you got to see what type of agenda do they have writing that, because it's definitely not true. Find me a civilization.
You can't say anything is definitely not true.
Find me a civilization.
Make that statement accurately.
No, you can't make a statement that's not accurate.
You can't make that statement.
You just got finished saying that out of African theory is not true.
I'm giving you the sources. You asked me for sources, and now I'm giving it to you.
I'm trying to type the author name in the chat. What's the author name?
His name is.
That's just a book.
Okay, his name is.
Not archaeology. It's pseudo archaeology.
It's definitely pseudo archaeology.
It's pseudo archaeology.
What gives you the credibility to tell me that it's pseudo archaeology?
Well,
where's your credentials? I just want to know, because you're saying that real smoothly. So you have to have some level of knowledge on a higher degree to me to make that statement to me.
Well, what I can say is, well, let me just ask you firstly, how old are you?
What does age have to do?
Has a lot
to do with the author first, because I wanted to type the author in the chat. Let's get the name of the author first, so I can put his name in the chat so the listeners can go and get the book and stuff. Yeah. What's his name again?
His name is Michael Cromay. I just threw that in the chat now.
Michael Cremo and Richard Thompson.
Right. So you're familiar.
I know the book. I know the book. That's why I said it's
familiar.
Archaeology.
So there's one. Then there's another archaeologist I want to throw to you. His name is Louis Leakey. Let's throw him in there. Louis Leakey.
They said Leakey was a madman.
Pseudo.
He definitely was.
Well,
but he had some few points that were actually correct.
We follow science when it's suitable to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Choose not to follow science when we have these emotions, and it really comes from a place of self-hate.
I agree.
Yeah, it comes from a place of self-hate, unknowing to the person themselves.
Brother, what are you talking about?
But I don't think Rafi hates him.
Brother, what are you sipping on, brother?
No,
what are you sipping on?
I live in the Caribbean.
Okay, so you're not even a
Well,
continental American, so I don't even know
I'm
why
not a continental, but I know of Pizarro.
you don't understand.
The
You don't
ancient,
He
understand how
understands.
deep.
He definitely
You don't
understands, brother.
understand how deep the
I know of
psychological
Aztecs.
warfare for us here happened on the mainland versus the Caribbean. So
The
We
I
greatest
don't
we the
understand
same
victory.
how you
people.
talk
We the
to me
same
right now.
people. You can't differentiate like that. We the same people.
We okay, if you
He's
can
the
say we're
same
the
as
same
us.
people, then you understand that Africans, right, and indigenous Americans are the same people, right?
Yeah, they're the same people.
People
You
you
just
call Native
you
Americans and
they're
Africans are the same people, right?
no, they're not. No,
Okay,
they're
they
not.
are. Okay, so
That's
if
what you
you
think. See,
claim
you're part of that
claim to
movement.
be a part of
I
the
can
out
kind
of
of see where you're
Africa
coming from
theory,
now. I
you
But
can
let
claim
me
see
to
show
be
what
you
you
part of the
my
out of
DNA.
Africa
I can
theory.
see
How long
Let me
that
have
you're
show
we
one
you.
of those.
been back to Africa?
You're one
Let
of
me show you
those.
my DNA. I'm gonna show you my
Well,
DNA when I did a DNA test,
well, I'm
and
telling
there
you
is
from the
And he's
beginning.
probably gonna tell you the DNA is not real too. That's what
Yeah,
they
you
do.
know I
He
was
gonna
getting
say,
there, brother.
no. I
You
didn't
know
even
I
pull
was
it up
getting
on
there.
the screen
yeah,
DNA is
yet.
I
not
already know.
real.
I already know. I
Exactly.
dealt with people like you. I already
Okay.
know what I
And I
already
deal
know.
with people like
Well,
You
you,
think
Pan
you think
Africans
genealogy?
who
Okay,
You think
don't
your
understand.
listen,
you think because your
Kufu.
grandma said that she's
Nah,
Indian.
nah,
That's
it
what.
ain't. Nah, no, no.
You
It ain't
can't go
no
by what
because of
people
no
say. You
Kufu,
got to
grandma.
go by.
listen.
Okay, I'm
We got
listening.
to give the brother a chance to say what he have to say because I don't think he's really coming from a place of um trying to deny Africa or
No,
not. You know,
and
you
I'm
understand
not.
what I'm saying?
He just got
I'm
finished
not.
I
saying the
think
out of
he's
Africa theory
just
is
give
not
him
I'm
a
not.
chance to say what
That's
give
all
him
right.
give
I'm
him
gonna
a
push
chance
mute.
to say what he's trying to say because he's not like the ones that be screaming and
Yeah,
hollering
I'm
and
not.
yelling about you know
I'm
what I'm
not.
saying? Oh, and fuck Africa and blah blah blah
Right,
Africa. Like I don't
right.
see him coming like that. So we don't want to just shred him out like this. You know what I mean? Because he's just trying to. He's coming from his point of view and from his research, and we got to give him a chance to do that. You know.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know,
I'm
I
not
know
coming
you're
from
used
that.
to going against the grain with other people like that because yes, they will go so far out to where they want to act like Africa's not even on the planet Earth. I get that, but let's give him a chance to finish saying what he was trying to say and present his facts and things like that. Because remember the other night, even Baba Phil said not everybody comes from Africa because their DNA has been so watered down that by the time they trace it, it's probably only a 4 or 5%. You know what I'm trying to say?
the original people in the Americas were Africans.
Period.
The original people in the Americas were Africans. And then, because of the Cordilleran and the different ice sheets and the Bering Strait, the Asians came across that land bridge.
Wait, stop right there. You just said African. So how can you go from
Yeah,
African to Asian? Wait a minute, brother. Listen to yourself. You said the Africans are the original, and then you went and said Asian. So what
yeah,
is it? Is it African or Asian?
exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. The Africans were here, and then the Asians came across, and they mixed.
So where did the Africans come from?
The Africans came from the Pacific Islands and also West Africa. The first Africans came from the Pacific Islands, coming to what we call Americas.
Interesting. Well, that's not actually true. That's false. So
It's not
the
false.
Africans did come over. They came over. The part that's true is they did come over and migrated here. However, there were people already here that met them. So, like I was saying before, the brother
But there's
kept
no
cutting me off.
sign of a
I can
archaic
give you,
human
I
in
can
the
give you
Americas.
sources. So if
There's
you
no sign
allow
of
me to
archaic
talk, I
human
can
in
give you
the
sources.
Americas. There's no sign of archaic human in the Americas.
That's a lie. So
There's
here's
only
one.
Homo
Here's one.
sapien. Give me
Look up
one.
Way at Laco,
I just want to
Mexico.
see the sources. I'm not
Give
even
me
gonna go back
one
and
source.
forth. I just want to
Way
see
at
your sources.
Laco, Mexico. I typed this in the chat for you guys.
Yeah, let me look
Way
it up.
Laco, Mexico. Here's another one. Calico Man site.
And what is there?
Let me type out the my sources so that you can check out some of the prehistoric that goes far beyond any migration out of Africa. They were here already. We were here already in the Americas. So here's Calico Man site in California. Look into them. This was a site that was actually dated by that was dead by Louis Leakey. So you definitely can't try to run around this one, because he was also there dating the Lucy skull in Africa. So you can't disqualify him stating that man was here 300,000 years ago in California.
That's actually still
300,000 years,
fairly
that's
recent.
modern man.
Yeah, that's actually still
That's
fairly
still
recent.
kind of young though, because
sapien.
Yeah, that's fairly recent, but it's okay. I'm not saying that man wasn't here here at that time, but that's still fairly recent compared to the continent of Africa.
Absolutely.
But go ahead, brother. Come with more sources. I'm gonna look this one up.
Let's put a pause. Let's put a pause on the sources real quick, and I just want the brother and everybody to see what I did my DNA. Just put it on pause for a minute, because I want to show everybody when I did my DNA what came about out of 100%. So we got, can you see the screen? Is it able to be visible? Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, you can see the screen.
You see the screen, Rafi and Kufu?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. So Nigeria, 28.1%.
Right.
Sierra Leone, 25.9%.
Right.
Kenyan, 17.9%. West Africa, 5.8%. And then I scroll down. Wait, let me go down, because I got to go to the other screen to make that scroll down. Then I scroll down. You see this right here? North and West, 11.7%. East European, 9.6%. Lastly, Indian, 2.1%. So I could say that bloodline, but the line is up here. And that doesn't necessarily mean that this bloodline here is because of the slave trade. Some of it could be, but I don't think all of it is. Any thoughts on that? So I'm going to just leave it here, right here at the Mesoamerican and Andean, because I'm our grandmother on my mother's side and the grandmother on my father's side.
Well, this is my thought on that.
I wasn't really surprised at this.
This is my thought on that, and we talked about this earlier. What they will say is DNA is not real. You can't go off of DNA. You have to go off of genealogy. Don't go off of DNA. That's basically like, you can show that.
You have to. People who DNA think, it's nothing wrong with going off. That they're not, there's nothing wrong with me going off of DNA, because it's nothing wrong with me going off DNA. It's actually more accurate. If me and Rafi, if me and Rafi had a baby and he thought that the baby wasn't his, he's going to take a DNA or a genealogy test. So this is
it would work then. See, they'll use it for that, right? Yeah, they'll use it for that. But let's you say you know.
And also, if me and him was to get married and we wanted to find out if we were related, we would take a DNA or a genealogy test.
Right.
So it's not just to find out where you're from, who you are, and where you come from. Those DNA genealogy tests are good for a numerous of things. Like if I had a child, God forbid, and the child had a rare disease, they would run a genealogy or a DNA test to see what side of the family that disease came from, or to even track down what type of disease it is, especially if it's a rare disease. So DNA and genealogy should never be debunked. It should never be like pushed under the rug for the sake of trying to say something is just not African or is African, because we need that. That's the whole reason why the test even exists.
You know, and to add on to that, sister, like when I took my DNA test, I was able to find 3rd, 4th, 5th cousins, right, that actually are related to me, that actually on my dad's side that are actually related to me, right? And if it was like if it didn't work, if DNA wasn't accurate, how did I find 3rd, 4th, and 5th cousins that I never met before in my life until I spoke with them and they spoke with me, and then we did genealogy, right? Once I found out the DNA, that I was connected to somebody, then that's when you do genealogy. You can't just do genealogy and ask your grandma, are you mixed with Indian? And their grandma say, well, we're Indian. And then you just run with that and be like, okay, well, I'm Native American then, because my grandma said that, and my grandma's grandma said that, and then my grandma's grandma said that, because the majority of my life, I thought I was mixed with Indian. And this is just a personal experience. I can show you a picture of my grandma right now. She's light-skinned, a pointy nose, black woman with long black straight hair, right? And all of my life, we was thinking that my grandma was mixed with, or she was Native American, right? Come to find out, she's just a light-skinned sister because she's mixed with black and white. So a lot of these people running around saying that they grandmom is Indian and they come from like the native background, it's really European is the reason why their hair texture looks like that. It's not necessary. Now I'm not saying that there are not people of African descent that have Indian native blood in them. There are people who are literally native and indigenous. I'm not saying that everybody's from Africa. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there are way more people that if they did a DNA test, they would be from West Africa, but they're running around saying that there's no connect, like Africa is not even real. And this is just a list of things that they say that since there's just not, it's just not true. People can think what they want to think, but it's just not, it's just not true. And that's it's a growing movement. I'm seeing this more and more. People, I did my genealogy. My grandma said I'm Indian, and then my grandma's grandma said we Indian. It's like, you can't just go off of what somebody say though. You have to do. That's not that just don't make sense to me to just strictly go off of what someone says, right? And then do a little research, and then it just, I don't know. It's just confusing to me. I don't get it. You know what I mean? It just seems like people want to be everything else besides what they are. That's why I was agreeing with Wasar when he said it's kind of self-hate.
Somebody
I'm not
playing
talking
around
about
with
this
a mic
brother.
or something?
I'm not attacking this brother.
I'm not moving. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I'm not saying this for him. I'm not attacking. I would like to see his sources. I'm gonna do research on those sources.
Yeah, I
And
just put them up in the chat.
Yeah, and the people who wrote the sources that he's putting up on the screen, I'm gonna do research on them, because certain people have agendas and they put stuff out, and people take what they put out and run with it, right? So I'm gonna do, before I'm not trying to down the brother. I don't want him to think that. If I came off any type of way, I apologize. I'm not trying to battle you or make you feel.
Can I ask you a question,
agree.
Kufu? Are you playing around with the mic or something? Because it's real distorting the conversation. It's like somebody is moving a mic or headphones or something.
Well, I'm not touching my mic. It's like I have it because my mic is I have headphones on with a mic on the side of it. So maybe
it's gone now. It's gone now.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to tell the brother I'm not trying to go against you or battle you or debate you or anything like that, but I do disagree, and on some of the stuff that some of your information and some of your sources, I do disagree.
Absolutely.
But I respect you. I'm not here to argue or debate you, and I'm gonna push mute, and I'm gonna let you continue to, because this is your show. You came on here to present your information, so I'm gonna just I respect that. I'm gonna respect. I have respect for you, so I'm going to just. We don't necessarily have to agree on everything. You still my brother. Whether you think you're indigenous and I think I'm African or whatever we want to label it, when it all boils down to it, we're all family right here on this show right here. So that's when it all boils down to it. We can have agreements. So I don't want you to, that's how I feel. Yeah, so I'm gonna push.
Well, that's why I went and took a DNA test from the start, so that way I can know personally who I am and where I come from. Because
right. So I just wanted to clear that with the brother. I don't necessarily agree, but it's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna just
I think
listen.
Wasar was trying to say something too.
Okay, all right. That's it. I'm finished. I'm gonna just push mute and listen and learn.
Yeah, I appreciate that, bro. Appreciate. I wish you could have came at me like that in the beginning, because now I don't feel like speaking. I really don't feel like opening my mouth now. So I'm gonna just be real precise with y'all, and I'm gonna just say my little piece. And I appreciate you, sister, for inviting me on. Like I said, I didn't realize I was gonna be with these certain people who have their ideologies that are Eurocentric in origin, when they base themselves calling themselves African is a Eurocentric origin. Why is this a Eurocentric origin ideology? Because like I told you before, the 1960s is when the out of Africa theory peaked up. I don't know if you actually spoke with elders in the night. If you got your great grandmothers, you can ask them. They'll tell you. They didn't learn about out of Africa in school. That's because again, that was the current new theory. So before then, it was the out of Asia theory, and that's actually still predominant in many non-Western societies. And then there's also the out of Australia theory. If you're familiar with that, they claim to be the oldest indigenous people on the planet, and nobody can discount that because their DNA is so ancient that it backs up their claim. And that is the predominant claim in that hemisphere. And to just to provide you some sources, there's a lot of people are confused. I never said I'm not African. I've never said Africans didn't come over here. I never said African people are dumb or any of these silly things that people say on the internet. I'm coming at you from a perspective of genealogy, history, and archaeology. So I can prove to you that there was no the out of Africa theory isn't actually true, because we can look at the blood. So blood types, when you go into blood types, there's certain a predominance that is for a specific group of people. I don't want to say race, because race doesn't exist. That's a concept that was created socially. So old blood is the oldest and most ancient blood on the universe on this planet. And the predominance of old blood was 100% in the Americas pre-colonization. What group of individuals, if you want to say race, you can, but group of individuals have that old blood type? Not Africans, not Asians, right? And not Europeans. It's actually so-called Black people in America. And that's because we are the Aboriginal Americans. So that's just one point, and you can look that up yourself. And you can also read Peter Deamo's book, Eat Right for Your Type. He actually a PhD. He's a doctor, and he states the same thing. Old blood as the oldest people, and the so-called Black people have the oldest blood. Okay, so that's not even a debate, and I'm not even here to debate. I'm gonna just drop facts. So we're moving on from blood and genetics, just to talk about the DNA test. Now, like the brother was saying, he already know what I'm gonna say. So DNA, using DNA tests, it's not actually completely accurate. So it can, of course, provide you some of the basic information as far as like who your, like he was saying, he found new cousins he never met and your second removed cousins. However, when you're dealing with so-called races of people, like I said, race is a social construct. So it's not based on genetics at all, in no way, shape, or form. Because race is just what you
Well,
look
we're going
like.
to talk about ethnicity then. We'll
Okay.
talk about the ethnicity because,
I like that.
if someone has a rare disease, born with a rare disease, DNA and genealogy is going to be the way that they take to find out what's going on and what side of the family it came from and things like that. So it is very necessary. And a lot of these Native Americans that's here on the continent of America, they have their DNA too. And it's not even saying that they're from here. It's saying that they're from Spain. It's saying they're from some parts of Europe. It's saying that they're from India, you know what I'm saying, or Asia Minor and things like that. But they look like what we would say a Native American with their feathers and their tradition and the moccasins and everything, you know?
Right. So I'm not totally discounting DNA tests. I'm just telling you there is like a certain restriction in how far it is. It's not an exact science. It's not at all. And
But
if
then
for
what do you do to
reference,
get the exact science to find out if you are
exactly. So you
exactly
can,
from this side of the world or that side of the world?
right. So DNA test alone isn't going to tell you who you are. You have to do that in concert with genealogy and oral history and things like that. So any one thing alone is not going to be enough if you want to go that far. But then, like I was saying, in reference to DNA tests not being able to map out your entire DNA genome, look up this video. It's called Rick Kittles. DNA test is a scam. In this video, Rick Kittles, if you don't know, is the director, or I don't know if he still is, but he's the director of African Ancestry. That's the largest African DNA database. And in this video, it was a 60-minute. He was on 60 Minutes. He stated that his DNA test can only trace 0.2% of your DNA. Oh, I'm sorry, 0.1% of your DNA. So it's less than 1% of your DNA is traced in these DNA tests. And you go look up that video. That's from the director of the largest African database. So if you can't, I don't know, if you try to discount what I'm saying, that's kind of weird because I'm not saying it.
No, I understand what you're saying. But when I went to Ghana, I saw people that looked like my great grandmother, my great
Exactly.
aunts. I saw people that looked like my cousins. And that's why you can see that 5% in my DNA test. Because when I went to Ghana, I saw a lady that looked just like my aunt. My great aunt actually was my grandmother's sister. And I saw a man in Kumasi that looked like my great grandfather, my grandmother's father. So, and in that aspect, I think that percentage need to go up a little bit more because when I went on the continent, I can see people that look like Jamaicans I know. I can see
Exactly.
people that look like my son's baby mother. I'm like, Crystal got to be from this tribe because she looks just like these people. The same exact body frame, the face features and everything.
Yep.
So
No doubt.
it might not be 100% exact, but it's in the 90% exact. I don't know why that man said what he said, but when I'm talking about my personal experience when I went to Africa, what I saw with my eyes, that it fumbled me that this woman looks just like my great aunt. But of course, she's younger than her because my great aunt is passed on, but she looked just like her. I would think she was my family. And I'm sure if we did a DNA test or a genealogy test, me and that sister will be related. If I did one with that man that looks like my great grandfather in Kumasi, I swear we would be related because he looks exactly like my great grandfather. The same blue black complexion, the same height, the giant like body frame. It was just, I don't know. I guess you would have to see it and be there to see what I was experiencing. But I mean, it was very real. It was very real, brethren, very real.
Oh yeah, that's no debate. Like that's not a debate. We are worldwide melanated people, and that's just I think what the brother Kufu was confusing
Like
me
we
with.
have lookalikes, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
he
We
was
have
confusing.
constant lookalikes.
Yeah, he was confusing me with someone else. So I'm not discounting Africa at all. That's in our bloodline. I'm just telling you that's not all that's in our bloodline. You can go
Yeah,
to
of
Oceania.
course.
Exactly. You can go to Oceania in the Melanesian islands and find people that look exactly like you also. And in Asia also. And it may not show up on the DNA test, but that's okay. That's still your people. So I don't want people to just lose themselves and attempting to find themselves. And
Yeah.
with that being said, that's really all I want to say as far as the blood types go. And I'm trying to remember there was something else I wanted to add. Oh, okay, yeah, the brother was saying he was trying to debate me and say that I don't know. Sound like he said he wasn't debating me, but it sounded like a debate. I guess he was just
Who was
sharing
Sar?
Kufu his point of view as far as the Africans and Asians coming here. Like I feel like that's just hearsay. We can talk about, oh, we really came in Africa and Asia, but that's really hearsay. I feel like we should be more practical in our movements and our tactics when we speak and come together with each other. So we should deal with things more relevant with the here and now. So like I said, I don't care if you can say you're from Africa or Asia or whatever you say. That's
So
cool.
this
I'm your brother.
so this
Like,
oldest blood type, you sure it's not A? Because what SAR's saying the oldest blood type is not O, it's A.
yeah, I'm 100% positive because here's why I'm positive, because the predominant blood type in the world is O. So if A is the oldest blood type by default, A would have to be the most common because it's been here the oldest, right? I mean, that's just going out.
Are you familiar with Billy Carson? Because he has a rare old blood type that's old, that's not O. I forgot the name that he called it, but it's definitely not O. And his blood type is so rare that he have to go to the blood bank and give his blood just in case he need blood somewhere down the line. Something may happen and he may need to get a blood transfusion. He could only receive his own blood type because his blood type is so rare. Maybe 5 on the planet has his blood type, and
No,
it's
I'm
not
not
O.
familiar. I'm not familiar with Billy, his blood type.
Billy
So I couldn't
Carson.
even. Yeah.
Yeah, his name is Billy Carson. I guess I
I
could
couldn't
probably
answer.
put his name in the chat and his information or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely not O. And he has to give his own blood to put on reserve just in case he
Yeah, that's
needs a
very
blood
interesting.
transfusion.
I gotta look him up. I gotta see what he's speaking about. Hopefully, you can shoot me that video link or uh, that post from where you're speaking of.
Okay, I'm gonna put his name in the chat.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something with Sar?
Oh, but yeah, let me say this real quick. Sorry, I don't mean to
Okay.
interrupt you.
No,
I
that's
really
fine.
don't. Like I said, the brother came at me wrong. The other brother came at me wrong. So I really don't feel like staying on here. So let me just say this my last little piece real quick.
How
Um,
I come at you wrong?
like I said, I don't care if you're from Africa or you claim Africa or Asia or whatever. Just understand that melanin is and was a global phenomenon. It existed on every landmass. And when you try to claim one landmass without actually doing any type of research to your family history, you're not really doing anything. You're just making stuff and living in fairy tale land. So do your genealogy. There's professional genealogical services that can help you trace your history to specific nations of peoples and tribes. And then also you can, of course, do the DNA test, but just remember it's not that exact. And then there is in 2012, if a lot of people don't know, in 2012 there were 12 indigenous nations who presented at the United Nations in 2012 at the General Assembly of Indigenous Peoples. All of them were highly melanated and what you would call African. However, they were not. They were indigenous American, and they all presented at the United Nations under General Hemok Sheila. Okay. And that's just giving y'all some evidence that everybody with dark skin is an African. Their bloodline comes from America. And with that being said, thank you, sister, for joining the show. Like I said, I really don't feel like speaking because of these brothers coming at me wrong. Yeah, my energy isn't in the right space. So thank you for joining me.
Oh wow. Sorry that you feel that way. I had also okay. What just happened here?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, but you sound low right now. What just happened with Sar?
Um, it,
Sorry, I didn't.
I didn't come at I didn't come at him wrong. I challenged his information, and I just wanted him to show me sources. And then he says I came at him wrong. I just because I disagree doesn't necessarily mean I came at you wrong. You know, and then to just get off like that and then blame it on us, like, hey, they came at me wrong, so I'm getting off. No, that's just I personally think that's running. I think that's running, if you ask me. You know what I mean? I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to run nobody off. And I did apologize to him like a man.
Kufu, you have some loud music in the background.
No, I don't have any music.
Because you sound far back. You sound far away. You don't sound close up.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
Now,
that's better. Sorry.
okay, I just challenged his information. I didn't come at him wrong. I just said some things he didn't like. He might not like, but I don't feel like I came at him wrong. Maybe I interrupted his presentation. That's why I apologized to him. And I told him, we ain't got to agree, but, I thought I apologized to him, but I guess it just wasn't good enough. So,
well, that's why I asked him his age, because these things come from youth that haven't read much. He said he read 100 books. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I didn't believe that.
O is the oldest blood type. When O is a recessive, A is the oldest blood type, then B.
But y'all didn't even give the man a chance to pull up other information that he was trying to get to.
No, he hadn't. Well, I was quiet the entire time. So he had a lot of time to go. And I think Kufu, which is not like Kufu, was very quiet. So he had enough time to speak and to make his claims. But he was just pulling out falsifications of history. He denied science. He talked about carbon dating. Carbon dating, I know, has a limit. But there's amino acid dating. There's different forms of dating. So
I mean, I agree, brother. I thought I did. I wasn't trying to attack him, and I tried to explain that to him. And I don't think I came at him wrong just because I disagree with what he's saying, And I just, like, I don't know.
Maybe the tone of the voices made him feel like you were yelling at him.
But when you bring pseudo information, when your information is pseudo, yet you're standing there saying that we're wrong, and you're right, basically. I said I disagree, but I didn't just straight up tell him to his face that, like, my knowledge is supreme and superior over yours, like he was trying to act. You know what I mean? I didn't come at him like that.
Listen, we have Coffee, who was half Indian and half African, started bringing back Africans in the Americas back to Africa long before Marcus Garvey. Then was Martin Delaney.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Toussaint Louverture in the Caribbean, who traces his ancestry back to Africa as a prince. So our history is there. It's only, you see, the thing is, I'll always say this. In America, the Africans there are confused, and they've developed an ego because of the constant confrontation with Europeans. So now they're throwing away the baby with the bathwater. They don't trust science unless, okay, when you put on your switch, when you enter your home and you put on the switch, you expect the lights to come on. So is that falsification? Is that European science?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And to add on to that, brother, you see how he knew I was going to say that DNA, he was going to say DNA don't go by that, right? Because I already know where he's getting his information from. I already know what he's about to say. A lot of that stuff he was saying, I already knew where he was going to go with it. He was going to say the out-of-Africa theory is not true. DNA don't work. I already know. But
y'all didn't even give him a chance to do it yet. Give the man a chance to lay his claim out on the table before I think y'all kind of
made his claim, and then he asked for questions. He asked because we were just silent and not letting him speak, and then he asked for a discussion. And he realized that he was actually in a lion's den. He realized that he's dealing with Africans. No, you see, the thing is, I was about to say that I grew up in St. Lucia. St. Lucia is a small island which is next to Barbados. A lot of the slaves that went to America passed through Barbados. because it was a place where you went to buy your slaves.
Yeah.
Here, my father's, I think, mother or his grandmother had Taino. So I am aware I have that blood in me. But that blood was, how you say it? It went into the European and the African. So I know the difference between an African and a Taino. Because we have their descendants, they're not pure blood, but we have some of their descendants in certain parts of the island.
Yeah, and it's a difference. You can see the difference.
Of course, there's a difference. They have long, flat hair. It's not kinky like our hair.
Yeah.
There's differences. Even our language, how we speak, how we gesticulate, our Creole, our stories, our Kele, with the worship of Shango, Ogun, that was in St. Lucia, which Roman Catholicism destroyed. So we have our history. I have the book, The History of St. Lucia, and it says in the late 18th century, around in the 1770s, they did a census on the island, and they found around 12 Kalinago, 12 Native American on the island. And by the 1800s, they were just a memory. So these purebloods died off. And we have the stories. That's why I asked the brother, how many books has he read? How many books on Caribbean history? What happened in the Caribbean between the French, the Spanish, the British, and the Dutch? Because indentured servitude was going on in the Caribbean before they applied the African. Because those from Europe said they didn't want to work hard in that hot sun. They rather rob and steal and thief, and they took on the buccaneering and piracy.
See, that's a lot of good information right there. That you know, I love that. I always, that's missing it. That the stories, the things that you're saying are things that I never got a chance to learn as far as like the history of the Caribbeans, you know, and what happened to
the history of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that because that's something that I never was able to learn. You know what I mean? To study up on.
The Caribbean islands didn't have wealth, like gold and these resources. It was more in the mainland, in South America and in Central America. Central America, Pizarro got the most silver, a lot of silver. They built the empire of Central America, okay, with the Inca. And they were considered to be a dark-skinned people. Okay?
You know something, and let me just ask this. Like, I'm still a little disturbed of how he just came on, and I'm not trying to change the subject. Hold that thought, but I just need to say this. Like, you know, I'm just a little disturbed how he came on, how he got off of the show, and then like made it seem like we came at him wrong when all we did was if all we did was challenge your information. That's what a discussion is. You know, I challenge. If I disagree on something, I have the right to challenge what I disagree on. That doesn't mean I came at you wrong. I didn't disrespect you. I didn't, you know, and maybe the sister said that we should have let him put his information or whatever out. Maybe, you know, hey, maybe it might look that way. I don't know how I look or sound from the outside. You know what I mean? Maybe it looked that way, but
yeah, because my daughter was listening in the background and she said, well, at least they could have let him give him a chance to say and show everything he wanted to show, and then come back with your I don't agree, and you know, like that, like that.
You're right, and you know what it is, sis.
And I don't know if it's because of the age difference. Maybe that's why he felt a little bit uneasy. me, I would have stayed and I would have fought
Well,
that battle. I would have stuck on to what I know, and we would have probably just ended off disagreeing, but it would have still been like, I said what I said, I got my information, I'm presenting it, and we can talk about it. And as we're talking about it, if you don't agree, that's fine. If you start agreeing, that's fine as well. I probably wouldn't have left, but I think he felt like maybe whatever I say, they ain't going to agree with me anyway, so I might as well just leave. I'm thinking maybe that's where he was, going at. I wish he would have been able to really present what he wanted to present. But, it is what it is. I hate that happened because I don't want any, guests to leave feeling a kind of way. But sometimes
but you gotta
sometimes the dialogue gets hot.
You have to be able to take it. You have to be able to deal with somebody disagreeing with you without running. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I feel like he just ran because, and I didn't. All we did was challenge his information, and then he said we came at him wrong, so he gonna leave. Like that's. I even said I apologize, and I even put it on. I even pushed mute. I said I'm gonna just push mute and sit back and listen. You can finish your show. I mean, and then he still left. So it's like. I didn't want him to leave either. I didn't want him to feel uncomfortable. I tried to tell him like, look, I'm not against you. We at the end of the day we're brothers. I thought I said everything right, how I really felt, and he still left. So I just feel like, But see, I was I'm passionate, and maybe my passion can come off as the wrong way sometimes. I'm just really passionate about how lost we are. As a people, the black man and woman in America, I'm very disturbed on how all of a sudden there's this new movement of people that on one hand will say, let's deal with genealogy and let's deal with archaeology, and I can show you stuff older than out of Africa. But then when you bring up DNA, they be like, well, that's not. So it just looks like, as long as it fits your narrative, you'll use science.
It's idiocy.
But then, that's that. As long as it fits your narrative, you'll use science, right? And archaeology and all that, right? But then if it doesn't fit your narrative, you'll say, oh, that's not very accurate. See, so it's like a certain. If it don't fit that narrative, then it's not. It's wrong. You notice how he was quick to tell us we wrong, and how is Wasar qualified to say what he's saying, and how who are you?
That's why I asked him his age. That's why I asked him his age, because you always.
Yeah, what made you ask him his age? Because I think he was doing a good presentation for himself. I
asked him his age because I saw his picture and I saw he's a youth man. So that's why I talked to him I asked him how many books he's read on the subject. And he said he's read over 100. Over 100 books. And he read over 100 books, but he said O is the oldest blood type. So that means he hasn't read over 100 books.
Especially not about blood, if he said that.
Now I'll tell you something. The CIA, FBI, the intelligence agencies, they don't want the Africans in America linking with the Africans on the continent.
This is very true.
They don't want trade.
Yeah, I know that exactly.
That's what Dus Muhammad Ali, where Marcus Garvey learned a lot of his Pan-Africanism. He was on the economics and looking for trade from Africa to America. But definitely the Americans fought him against that. He even got fight in Africa too.
Sure did.
So
I've seen a video of him in Africa, Muhammad Ali.
It's a long. I'm talking about Dus Muhammad Ali.
Oh, okay. I was talking about the boxer.
No, Dus Muhammad Ali. He was there long before. I think before Garvey.
Okay.
So the Pan-Africanism has been there long, even with Wilmot Blyden. Although he did certain, dichotomic things, but even Blyden, and even before Blyden, look at AT. So you tell me the people of Haiti didn't know they were Africans? When you read the Maroons of
Of course
Jamaica,
they did.
when you read the Maroons of Jamaica, the colonial powers were using the Indian people, who they misnomer Indian, to track down the African.
Yeah,
So,
they're not the same people. They're definitely not the same people.
so that's why I ask him these questions, because I mean, I've read on history, Caribbean history, African history, and European history. So, and also I have my own little island and the people I live among around. I know some of the words we use come directly from Africa. You know,
From West Africa, right?
yeah. The
Yeah.
food, even the foods in West Africa, you find them in the Americas.
So
And
it's I
Yeah, I know what
the,
you're saying. Yeah, I
yeah.
got
I
you.
mean, it's
Yeah.
just proof. I mean, you don't even need
Like the
archaeology just to.
cowpeas and the black
Yeah.
eyed peas and the ground
Mm-hmm.
nuts. Yeah. And my grandmother
oh,
used to make tomato rice, which is called jollof rice in
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria and Ghana, but my grandmother would call it tomato rice.
But it's the same thing. It's the
But
same
yeah,
recipe.
it's the same essence of it. Yes.
So is that just a coincidence? Like,
No,
so
of
the
course it's not a coincidence.
so I'm
No.
just saying, maybe I'm just was a little. See, I'm just a little. Like I said, I'm passionate, but at the same time, I'm actually fed up with this misinformation that these people are running out here in America, running around saying we are indigenous and we are older than African, and out of Africa, don't it ain't. That's not true. That's
But
just it.
remember, he
Really
didn't say
strikes.
that.
He
But
said the
remember,
out
he
of
didn't
Africa
say that.
theory. He said the out of Africa theory is not true. He did say that. Or do I? I guess I'm just hearing it wrong. He said,
no, he
Well,
did say,
yeah, he
he,
did say that. But I'm
he did
saying he
say,
didn't. Go ahead.
well, he did say the oldest fossil is found in the Americas. I told him in the Americas there's no sign of any archaic human. We have the we have the Homo habilis, we have the Homo erectus, we have the Australopithecus. None of these can be found in the Americas.
that's what I was getting to. That's what I was going to get to. That's what I was. But see, I didn't want to even get all into all of that. I just want to. I was just going to leave it alone because it's like I actually wanted him to present his show because I started feeling like, I didn't want to like. I
He's a
didn't want him to feel like he ended up feeling anyway. I really was trying to like.
I'll tell you something. You see the internet? Because if you type O is the oldest blood type, you'll get something telling you yes, But when you dig deeper, you see it's not true. That's the internet. Now these younger generation raised on the internet, that's how they
It's
come.
Yeah,
They
it's called
come.
Google. It's called Google Scholarship. They think Google has all the answers. They think they can just Google something and then because Google said that's what it is, then that must be the truth. It's
Yeah.
called Google Scholarship. That's what, and
And
people are creating basically a whole new group of I don't know, I won't call it a cult, but it's just a belief system that wait a minute, we're not from Africa. We're indigenous to this land. And I just feel like that is extra. It's like extra confusion that we just don't need that. I strongly disagree, with the concept that these people are putting out there. You know what I mean? I just disagree with it passionately. But my point was, I wasn't trying to run the young brother off. I tried to let him know I respect him. So for him to say I came at him wrong because I disagreed with his information, I just feel like that wasn't really. I just feel like that was a way to get out of the situation.
well, that's another problem with the internet generation. Dialectics. They don't have the ability to. It's just scroll down, delete. We have to fist it in things here. And that's what dialectics is about. Deliberation, conversation, your point, my point. Let's go down to the truth of the matter. Let's do a little research. Okay, show me your evidence. Okay, look at mine. Okay, let's. It's not you say something and you just tell me I'm wrong.
Right, right. And I'm used to that. I'm used to the back and forth. Like, you don't have to agree with me. That's why I said, show me a source. Show me. And I'm just challenging. I'm not challenging him as a person. I'm just challenging the information. I'm not attacking him or, that's my brother. Like, I'm not. I was just challenging the information because he had to learn that from somebody. And I
Because
know.
remember he did say that he's not denying that, that people have an African heritage or people have an African roots.
He said 3% of the people in America came from Africa, of the black people in America.
3%. Yeah, he did say that. That's like.
I mean, that percentage is a lot higher. I know that.
It's way higher than that.
Come on.
Like that, and then if we challenge, like, don't put information, don't put false information. It's already bad enough we confused. I don't agree with you coming putting false information out there. Now, I just don't agree with that.
Well, so tell me what's the point? Okay, you want to be in America. You want your rights in America. You want your fair share, equal slice of the pie in America. Okay, what's the percentage of African Americans in America?
It's a large percentage.
It's 19%. 19%. When you compare that to the European population in America, you're a small minority. Or should I say a large minority? So what are the chances of the African there getting their way?
It's not a chance.
It's not realistic,
Even if you stop calling yourself African and start saying you're Indian and you own land here and they took our land from us and we're the original, because that's really where it comes from. They're really willing to put their African, and I don't even want to use the word African because, you know what I mean? They just want to, we're just using it for, lack of better words, but they want to deny and say they're not African and I'm indigenous, so therefore the United States, this country is mine and this land is mine, and they want to try to like get into the, try to challenge the government and see if the government is going to give them land, and they want to claim these tribes. I'm from all these different tribes. They want to be a part of all these different tribes so they can see if they can get something from it. I think that's the main reason why, besides the lack of knowledge of self and self-hate. Because it really is self-hate too, to just be like, nah, I'm not from there. And if you do a DNA test, it'll tell you you're from there, but you don't even want to do that. You don't even want to do no DNA test. You just want to go by what your grandma said. See what I mean? The majority of them type of people that I talk to, they be like, well, it's all about genealogy. All right, my grandma said that I'm Indian, and then my grandma's grandma said that I'm Indian. That's how they do it. They say they do research on their family history, and it goes back and it says that they're Indian and not African.
Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you just a little something. When my first marriage didn't work out, you know what a lot of aunties and elders were telling me?
What?
Check for a white girl. Check for a white girl. Them black woman, they're ready here. Check for a white girl. So that is the mentality of the elders. These are brainwashed people. These are people that had their identity was taken away from them. These are people that
is always better.
Marry someone that have light skin and nice hair, good hair, dogla, nice hair. That's the mentality of the elders. So now you put in yourself to get knowledge from these people that were robbed of knowledge. And you're denying science, you're against science, but you put on the kettle, you plug it into the socket. Where do you learn? Where do you go to learn about electricity to become an electrician? To a black man's college?
No.
Where do you go to learn about medicine? To a black man's college? No. So we have to be very careful. We're attempting to throw away everything and cling on to superstition.
And you know what? That's another thing. It's like Africa is the most resourceful continent on this planet. Why would you deny that? Why would you rather throw away where your ancestors really come from and be like, nah, this is the like this has no this land is dry, has no resources, don't have no oil, don't have no gold, don't have no diamonds, don't got no. It's just a dry land. It's just a desolate land, basically. It's
I'll
and
tell you why. I'll tell you
Well,
why.
California used to have gold. You remember the gold rush of California?
Oh yeah, there's still gold in America.
it's
But I'll tell you,
it's not compared to the continent of Africa though. It's a
no,
little gold here,
not
but
at all, not at all. But I'll tell you why. The reason is the African Americans have grown used to the comfort begotten by the ill gains of the war machine of America. And
I agree.
that's the problem. They cannot see themselves in Africa.
Yeah,
Because
that's what it is.
they look at America as it's so beautiful, and the concrete, the buildings, the different services. You don't have to walk too far. You don't have to carry water. You don't have to do this. Taxi, a dollar cab from there to there. They don't walk. They'll give that up. But this is the fruit of the annihilation of indigenous people.
You're right about that, brother. Like, to add on to that, I moved from California to Virginia, right? And in California, they have sidewalks. When I moved out here, they didn't have sidewalks in certain areas. There's certain areas out here in Virginia that don't have sidewalks. And I was actually complaining, and I was like, I didn't recognize how, I won't say spoiled, but I didn't recognize how Americanized I was, for the lack of better words, that or how when I start complaining, like, they don't got sidewalks. I want to walk on the sidewalk because I'm used to California sidewalks. So I come somewhere that don't have sidewalks in certain areas, and I just felt, it was just uncomfortable for a minute. It took me a minute to get used to it. So now that you say that, just to the 10th degree, just us as a people, Black people in America, we've been so de-Africanized. We've been, for so many hundreds of years, right? We've been disconnected from our natural root, our natural ancestry for so long. We don't even know what it is. We don't even want to be that no more. We would rather say I'm an Indian. We would rather say we're something else other than what we are. And that just really irks me. That just really, and then try to come up with some archaeology of other people's culture, of other people's stuff. That ain't got nothing to do with your ancestors. A lot of that archaeology, a lot of those, the Inca and all that ain't got nothing to do with people of African descent. It just doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Now, the Olmecs, like I said, the Olmecs was of Nubian stock. They brought the sciences of the pyramids over here and taught these people. But see, they won't say that. You notice how he got quiet when I said that, because he was like, he was going to not agree with that, basically. You know what I mean? He doesn't agree that the Olmecs are actually of the Nubian stock. They took the same sciences from the West Nile, the Nile Valley, and they migrated over here thousands of years ago. What's wrong with just saying, okay, yeah, that's what happened? It's the truth. Instead, you want to totally chop off the fact that they came from that continent and just be like, nah, these people ain't even them over there. I just don't get it. That's just what I don't get it. It just really frustrates me that people are saying that now, that people actually think that now and ready to argue you down, or think that you're coming at them wrong just because you disagree with that. That's just frustrating to me. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? It just bothers me,
Well, here is a good book. Back. This is by University of Kemet Press. And this has the history of America. Okay? From 1607 to the present. Okay? And it talks about Pizarro, Cortez, Cristobal Colon. It talks about Raleigh, Drakes, Morgan. So We know our history. And then they try to say the European that wrote that. So a European would take his time to document what he sees everywhere, especially to confuse someone else. In his work, you would see his prejudices. You would see in his writing, but he is describing to you what he sees, what's going on, what's taking place. But right now, all of a sudden, because that person is a European, then we have to just throw out all the information. All what that person said was lies. You know, well, it's not intelligent to act this way because humanity is one entity moving forward. Okay, something discovered in China, in a few years we all will know it and we all will be using it.
Right.
So humanity moves as one unit. It's just so happened that the European right now is in charge of which direction he wants it to go. But science is something, once you have the tools and the method, you cannot falsify.
I agree.
So while he was in, you see, the thing is, I'm a fast reader. I trained myself to read a lot every day. Okay. So that's why I was asking him about books, because I wanted authors. And he only came up with Leakey and I think some other guys.
Hey, but you know, and to add on to that, that's what I was, because see, I do research on the authors. Before I just read a book, I want to know who wrote the book and what was their agenda, what was their purpose for writing the book. So you got to research the researcher.
Of course.
And that's why I was asking him. I said, I'm going to do research I'm going to do research on your source. You can't just come up with a source without doing research on the person who actually who brought the source out. You know what I mean? So before I read the book, I want to know who is the author, what's his purpose of, what is his background, who is he affiliated with, or you need to know all of that. But see, a lot of people don't do that. They just get a book that fits their narrative, right? As long as it fits their narrative, they're okay with reading it and using it and saying it's a source. They don't do any research on the author or why the book was even written. They don't even get that deep into it. It's just long as it.
You have to do peer review.
That's what, peer review, exactly.
Look at this. Maroons of Jamaica. And I could get the part for you that talks about the difference between the Amerindian and the African. And I also have the history of the West Indies.
So you got all the books, man. That's what's up. Those are
the history of the West Indies. This used to be a school textbook, but they changed the curriculum. They changed the curriculum because as time passed by, things that was out there, they start to take them back. It's just like the book by Eric Williams. It's just like the book like Eric Williams. Capitalism and Slavery. Capitalism and slavery. So if you say the slave trade didn't exist, or you say that it was just 3%, read the book, read Capitalism and Slavery. You see, he left too early.
Yeah.
He left because I would show him books and ask him if he's read these books, because this book was written when the British archives was still open to the public. And Eric Williams, he went in there and he got all the information. He wrote a dissertation, and he put it in this book. And in this book is so full of information about slavery.
Hey, that's a beautiful, and you know what? That's a rare book. I bet you it's hard to find that book now.
But I think you can still find it it may be a little costly now. But remember, Eric Williams became the Prime Minister of Trinidad.
Yeah.
And it got so dread he had to outlaw his own book.
I heard about that.
Yeah. So we know our history. We have Walter Rodney from Guyana. Now, Guyana is a place where you have the Bokman. The Bokman still live in the jungles of Guyana. They are the remnants of the Amerindians. And to see them, you have to go in the jungles of Guyana to see these people. These people are not African people. They are not white people, but they are not African people. The Bokman.
So they're of Indian descent. They're of Asiatic. What are they?
Taino mixed with African too. You know, because there was a mixture that took place, and you got
dark skin, but their hair is straight. Their hair is straight, huh?
Yeah, the hair is straight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Most of the conquistadors describe the people they met. You know, the people they met that never knew, that didn't know war. You know, and these kind of things, timid kind of people, and then they had others that were very fierce. You know. So we have the history in the Caribbean. We have some of them, the remnants, not full Kalinago, but you can see they have the blood in their veins. You know? And even when you go to the Aztecs, you can see that the chiefs, a lot of the chiefs had African features.
Of course.
Because I did a video, I was interviewed by a brethren, and
yeah, that is true. Several of them had the broad noses, the round faces, the
bigger noses than us. They have broader noses than us. You know,
and they were tall and broad in stature.
That's why I said that they were of a lot of they were of the Nubian stock. Like a lot of the people who taught the sciences of those pyramids and taught them how to even the architecture and things of that nature that came from the Nile Valley. They've been, you know, that in the Asiatic people, they migrated there and then they interbred. They interbred with each other throughout hundreds of years to create that culture called the Inca and the Mayans and all of that. You know what I mean? And but my point is, that's not, you know, it's a different, those are the real.
Y'all don't think y'all was a little rough around the edges with the brethren? Like, be honest. Kind of reflect back on what happened, because my daughter was in the other room and she was like, "Yeah, ma, they really made after that. I probably wouldn't want to stay either, you know." But she's 25, so I guess from a 25-year-old point of view, that's why she's probably wouldn't want to stay as well. I would have stayed and just stayed on.
The thing is,
the information I know, you know.
Right. Between me and Wasar, we could have corrected the young brother. We was just trying to correct him. I know he thinks he's on to something. When I was his age, I was very fiery, the same way, and I thought I knew everything too. You know, I thought I knew more than what I knew when I was, you know. So I understand where you're coming from, but you can't, you know, you gotta be able to be corrected too. You can't just say you're right and everybody else is saying wrong. And we're his elders. We're his elders, and we might know something that he might not have learned yet, right? But to just shoot our information, just, you know, if you disagree with something, figure out. Ask me, why do I disagree? Try to figure it out. Don't just be like, you wrong. You don't know what you're talking about, and you coming at me wrong, and I'm just gonna get out of here. Like, that's not learning. That's not learning anything. That's just being like. So maybe we did. I mean, I can step back and be like, I should have just stayed quiet. Like I told you I was going to do before earlier today when we spoke on the phone, I told you, I was like, I'm gonna just stay quiet. Didn't I say that? I was like, I'm gonna just stay quiet. I'm gonna let him. It's his show. I already knew when he started talking about when you told me the show was going to be about ancient America. I already knew. I already knew what it was going to be about. Like, okay, this young brother's finna come in here with this we indigenous stuff, and we you know, I already knew. But so maybe I was a little, you know, I could have.
I get your point, but y'all could at least let him present his
You're right.
information.
You're
And
right.
then
I
after
could
he
have.
present his information, after he went through his information, then we can answer you can, when he says any questions, then you can ask questions and bring him back to point A or bring him back to point 1B. You get what I'm trying to say, to discuss what you did not agree with and why you don't agree with it.
Hey, but see, I caught myself. That's why I was trying to. That's why I actually apologized to the brother, and I told him, like, look, we ain't gotta agree. You know, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm not trying to. I caught myself, right? Didn't I catch myself?
I think he would have liked to hear that before.
Hey, that's fine. I understand that, but when you come in with some pseudo information that I know ain't true, I get a little passionate about that, and I was wrong. I can admit where I'm wrong at. I was wrong for disagreeing strongly with some of that stuff he was saying. I was wrong for that. I should have just let him present his information.
You could have still disagreed, but just allow him to present what he's presenting, and then you could have come back with the disagreement. But I think that he may feel kind of shortchanged that he didn't get a chance to state his case properly. Huh?
He left. I mean, I'm saying, I don't know if I'm talking too loud. My mic.
Now you want to know if you're talking too loud.
So he was in his presentation. He was giving his presentation, and then he stopped. And then he asked anyone. No one spoke. We let him continue. No one was speaking, you know. He was just continuing, and he was pointing out certain things, and I was listening. And I was saying, like, wow, boy, where you get them things from? But I wasn't saying anything. And then after a while, he stopped. You could see the discussion. You could see he was feeling like, you know, like everything stopped for a while. There was silence, and he was waiting like for someone to say something, for him to have some interaction.
Yeah, and that happened a couple of times.
Yeah, so when he got that interaction, he realized that, okay, this one is not agreeing with him. That one is not agreeing with him. And both of them are wrong. So in his mind, this is a waste of time. So he left. And that's what really happened. So he told us to look up the information. Now, all the time I was quiet, I was busy looking up the information and speed reading what I can. That's why I typed in the chat, the O-type blood is not the oldest blood type. You know? So I was tackling his information, you know, and so then I was just allowing him to continue.
I was aware of that too, because like I said, Billy Carson has to go to the blood bank and give his own blood just in case he needs a blood transfusion somewhere down the line in his lifetime, because only him and like 5 other people on the planet has his blood type, and it's not O. It's not O. I'm listening. I'm just walking away from the.
Right now, the truth.
It's not O.
Okay. Everybody is fighting against the truth. But you have to accept it. You can't run from it.
Right.
How can you run from the truth?
I mean, you know, the way I see it is, could we have let him finish his show and do that? Yeah, I thought I was trying to do that, but I guess it was too late. He was already turned off. So, you know, he don't want to talk. But if your information is not correct, it's really, I just feel like it should be challenged. If your information is not correct, it should be challenged. It should be. And if someone, you know, I just feel like he could have stayed, because we were going to be respectful enough to at least dialogue with the brother. And just because we just, you know, if you can't stand up to someone challenging your information, then that means you're not 100% confident that what you're saying is the truth. If you can't stand, you know,
These youths today claim to know more than Marcus Garvey. They claim to know more than Blyden. They claim to know more than Booker T. Washington. They claim to know more.
yeah.
They claim to know more than all the men that did the work and the women that did the work. And when I say work, I mean read a lot to reconnect with their African selves.
And actually travel to the continent and do archaeology and actually do studies and you know.
But look, I'm in St. Lucia. We have what's his name? Edward John Edward Quinlan that went to represent at the first Pan-African Congress in London. So we have all this and all those that have shed blood and died. So you're telling me all these people they were fooled into thinking they were African because America wanted to take their land. America don't need to lie to anybody to take their land. That's what they were doing all the time.
Yeah, they just come take it and kill everybody, and they just come. They ain't gotta lie about it. They don't have to trick us into thinking that we're not African. Like what are they getting? What is America getting out of tricking us, telling us that we're Africans and we're really not? What are they getting out of it?
You know how many treaties the Europeans signed with the Native American and break everyone? And now
over 200 and something.
And now we're hearing the African Americans saying they're going to court, waving a piece of paper. You're at the mercy of who? At the piece of paper? You're at the mercy of the same courts, the same system. There's no justice there. We know there's no justice there.
You can't stand up in their court and expect them to give you anything.
If you read the Making of the West Indies, and it goes in colonization of Spain, the French, the English, and the Dutch being the one that was successful in all the trade, and the buccaneering and piracy of John Morgan, Hawkins, and Drakes, and Raleigh. When you learn that history, you know what America was, and you know how it's unfolding today. And
right before our eyes.
This is the history the youth don't know about, because when they go on the internet, they type what they want to see. That's the thing about the internet. Whereas in television, you would sit down, they would give you a program. But now you have this whole brain at your fingertips, but you only type what you want to know about. You're not looking for the truth. You're looking for something
what fits your narrative, what fits your belief.
Right. That's what they're looking for. And they'll find it because there are many people pushing in St. Lucia. Even in St. Lucia, they're trying to push it. But when they meet up with ones like me, they lost for words. Because I made it my duty when I turned the Rastafari as a youth. What I was seeking for was my history, my African history. And where is the culture of the Native American? I never see them practice it. I never see they wear the traditional clothes. They don't
know the language. They don't know
the language. I never see they practice the customs. To see that, you go to the ones that look like the Asians.
You know why? Because that's who has it. That's who created that.
But they stole it. They say these people stole it.
That doesn't make sense, though. How are you the indigenous, but you can't speak the language? You know nothing about. All you know is the history that you pull up on the internet, and what your and somebody in your family, an elder in your family, said that they mixed with Indian, and they take those little things right there and then say, "Oh, okay, well we're native. We're the original, natives. We're not African." And
let me share my screen. I want to share my screen because I have a video.
So you started feeling at some point that he doesn't want to take elderly scrutiny.
No, he did. That's what he.
Because
This.
I don't want him to think that I invited him on the show for this to happen the way it happened.
Oh no, no, that wasn't your intention.
No, it didn't have nothing to
Because
do with you.
Clifford wasn't supposed to say nothing. He was supposed to be on mute, but for some reason that mute button wasn't working. Even when Wasar was trying to say something, wait a minute, Wasar, I just want to say this real quick, and I don't even think Wasar got a chance to finish what he wanted to say.
I apologize. I apologize to him. I apologize to you because I don't want him to think that you got him, you set him up. It wasn't like that. It was me being passionate about people that pushed that narrative that he was coming on here with. It just struck a nerve. I wasn't trying to. I didn't mean for things to be the way it ended up being. It wasn't my intentions to make him feel attacked, and that's why I took it upon myself to apologize. And I thought that would have been good enough, but he still said he still felt like he needed to leave. I'll apologize again, even to you, because you brought him on your show, right, to present some information, and I could have did a better job. I should have just not said nothing like I originally had planned. But then I'm not the type to just sit back and not say nothing. No, it's really hard for me to just keep my mouth shut, especially when it's something that I know for a fact is not necessarily accurate, or because it could have been a teaching moment for him. But see, to me, he had a little drip of arrogance. It was a little bit of arrogance there, to where you can't even be corrected. Your information is so correct. Nobody else's, and you can't be corrected on it. We could have sat there and built like brothers. We could have we didn't have to, we could disagree, and we could have all walked away knowing something new, or having a better understanding on each other's opinion, versus just, oh, y'all came at me wrong, so I'm leaving just because I disagree with you. So I just feel like, he's a young brother. Being young does have a lot to do with why he left, and why he thinks he knows everything, and why he thinks his information is so accurate. He has room to grow. He's going to grow. He's going to, and like I said, I apologize to him. I apologize to you. I apologize to my brother Wasar if I cut him off. But I'm just kind of like fed up with that indigenous native movement that these people got going. I'm just like, really, because it's like, I'm just kind of like, it's really getting under my skin, to be honest. Like that's because it's like,
I understand where you're coming from.
So I wasn't trying to do that. I wasn't trying to make him feel in any type of way.
In this book, Civilization of Barbarism.
Very good read.
Here you see now what this is showing you here is, let me read it. Racial differentiation according to hemotypological data. Altogether, racial markers exist that are significant enough to allow identification of the ancient Egyptians. If they have not already been identified, the three factors, Sutter, Negro, Diego, Mongoloid, and Kel, Caucasoid, have been underlined in this diagram. So you have the Sutter, Diego, and the Kel. Now, this has to do with blood type. So the African has the Sutter. Now, when you watch the Mongoloid, you ask yourself, the Native Americans, what was their blood type? Was it Sutter or was it Diego? And it was Diego.
Mongoloid, right?
Mongoloid.
Yeah, Asiatic.
Mongoloid, the Straits of Beringia. So
did you know this? Some Native Americans from the what tribe is that? I think it's Navajo. when they do DNA tests, they come back and they have a Chinese, they have a ancestry from China. They can stretch their DNA back to China and Mongolia.
Well, in their book, they have their history, and they date back their history to, I think it's 17,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
They date back their history in America. Yeah. So they too are where they came from somewhere else into America.
They migrated, yeah.
Because it was the last populated place on earth. Yeah. So we choose to follow superstition that goes good with us. But once it's for the betterment of our families, of our lives, comfort, then we can follow the science.
Right.
If it's to prove that's not your baby,
it's true. They'll believe the DNA then, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and they'll be happy too. They'll be happy to go there.
Oh, but then when you want to deny your African ancestry, DNA is not accurate. Yeah, I'm just gonna believe by what someone says versus just going to take a DNA. Because I guarantee you, if that young brother went and took a DNA test, he would be from the majority of his DNA would come back from West Africa. Period. It wouldn't say nothing about nothing else. Yeah, but he won't do that. They won't. A lot of those indigenous people, and they won't do that. They will not take a DNA test because they say it's not accurate. That's hypocritical. That's very hypocritical.
I even heard Dan Calloway said Harriet Tubman is a myth.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're starting that foolishness. When she got great nieces and nephews living right now today.
So to me, this is a poison being spreaded in our community. That's just my personal opinion.
When there's pictures of her and her husband and her adopted daughter. When there's a landmark in Aurora, upstate New York.
And you know,
she got a church in Maryland, or Delaware it is. Then you can go up to upstate New York where her house is.
So she definitely was a real person.
Yeah, and you can go on a tour to her house in Aurora, New York.
And you know something else that the girl that Dan Calloway was showing that picture, it's a dark-skinned Indian sister. It was like she was a little girl though. I think it was either her or her family members like got on him about that, or like I think he's being sued or something like that. He got called out for sharing certain pictures of certain people to prove fit his narrative. Some of the people in those pictures was like, that's my mom. She's African and she's African and Native. She's the dad was African and the mom was Native American. She wasn't indigenous like that, like the way they trying to make it. Like they were there, they're because I'm not. That's what I was saying. I'm not saying that there are not people of African descent who have Native blood. I'm not saying that. There are brothers and sisters that have Native heritage. They can actually say, okay, my ancestors are part of my ancestry is indigenous to this land. You can say that because you actually have, some Native ancestry. But I'm talking about these people that saying the problem that I have with is the brothers and sisters that saying I am not African. My ancestors don't come from Africa. I don't have any African blood. The slave trade didn't really happen that way. The transatlantic slave trade didn't happen. Now, this is what they're saying. Not all of them, but the majority of them fit under this umbrella. They say, like you said, Harriet Tubman wasn't real.
And then the whole denial of, Africa not being the breadbasket of the whole world. Europeans says that. That's why their hands stay steady in there. China knows that. That's why China staying there.
And then
from the beginning of time, we know that Africa is billions of years old compared to the continents over here in the West. That's only hundreds of thousands years old.
And the young brother, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said that I was talking some European stuff.
Well, that's because y'all said that to him,
So it's like, but okay, I ain't even going to talk about that no more because it's really it just kind of, you know what I mean? I'm not going to talk.
What he's doing, the European tried it. if you read about the Piltdown man, where they took the skull of a man and put the jawbone of an ape and said that
I heard about that.
civilization, humanity came out of Europe. Okay, so they're just doing what the European tried to do, but science, of course, has to do with the truth and the facts. You know, so all the superstition and the myth, it melts away when you approach scientific study. You know, so once you fight against science, but these people that are coming with these things, I'm sure they send their children to school, and I'm sure their children deal with books, and they want their children to learn their history, or are they going to invent a history to give the children? Because this is one of our biggest problems that's surfacing right now.
It
That
is.
we're starting to disconnect ourselves with the continent when the continent is just waking up and stretching forth his hands.
Now all of a sudden you want to be an Indian.
Now you want, because the comfort of that
But
that
the
that
Indian is not even the proper term, because Indian would be on the continent of India.
yeah, that was a
Exactly.
misnomer, because Cristobal Colon was really trying to get to India for the spice trade, because from India they were getting tea, and tea was a big thing, you know. So he was actually trying to get to India, and they couldn't go through what was open to them before, the what we call the Middle East. That was, the Arabs had full control of that, so
Yeah.
they had to go around Africa.
The
So he
Ottoman Empire, right? The Ottoman Empire had control of that whole area,
had control of that whole area there.
and they wouldn't let them come through. Yeah.
So he took the other, so he said he would go that way and he would end up in India. So when he reached and he saw the natives, he called them Indians. But we know they are, right now they say there are East Indians and there are West Indians. They would call me a West Indian, which is a misnomer, because I'm not a West Indian. I'm an African. After slavery, the emancipation, then they brought in Indians from East India. And so we have Indian populations. If you watch Guyana, we have, as I
And
said,
Jamaica.
Jamaica, but in Guyana, we have the Bokman, which lives in the jungle. Then you have the Indian, and you have the African, and you have little minorities of, maybe Dutch that have their ancestry there still. But there you see, of course, the differentiation in the people. The East Indian that came in indentured servitude, the African, and then you have the original Bokman that is still there, in some of them living still in the jungles of Guyana.
Right.
Now, the African American in America is not exposed to these exchanges of the cultures of these people, because America is such a big, vast place. And African people are more minority, so they have to follow the rules set by the European, and it's in their face. So they develop certain complexes,
Yeah.
And one of them is, oh, maybe we're not even African. Maybe we're something else.
Yeah, because you live in the concrete. You live in the concrete. You don't climb trees. You don't pick fruits from trees. You
No,
don't go
we
to
don't.
the rivers and the waterfalls. You don't walk. Walk to go and pick plums and go through the bush and we climb a coconut tree, climb a mango tree, and that's everyday life in the Caribbean. That's an everyday thing.
Hey, that sounds beautiful to me. That's
Yeah,
something that's
yeah.
and like a little. Let me just say this too. It's crazy because I was born in New Mexico. New Mexico is like one of the last stronghold of Native Americans, like the Indian, the real Asiatic Native Americans. Like I grew up with all, literally, like at my public school that I went to, like I grew up around Native Americans. Like because I'm from New Mexico. I grew up. It's a desert. They have their teepees. They have They have powwows. They have, I grew up around all of that. So it's kind of really strikes me a little, different. It hits me different when I see Black people or African people of African descent denying their ancestral roots, because them Native Americans don't even like Black people. They don't even like African people. They don't even let them. Yeah, some of them have mixed with us, right? But generally speaking, those tribes don't like us. They don't. Like, they won't even, if you're half of them, you have to fight them for them to accept you in their tribe. You have to literally like go to court. You gotta like, they make it hard for you to be accepted. They don't welcome you. They don't welcome us with open arms. They know a little more history about us. They know more about us than we know about us. And they tell you that, no, y'all not, you guys came from this slave shit. Like, they know history. See, some of these indigenous people need to talk to some of them Asiatic, the real Native Americans, and they'll tell you like, nah, your ancestors did come across with, did like intermingle with us, but you guys are not, y'all came from West Africa. They need to be told that from the people that they're trying to be. Because I guess me and you, they ain't gonna listen to me and you. They just think we don't know what we talk about, right? But they need to hear that, they need to hear it coming from maybe a different source, because I was always told growing up with Native Americans that some history that maybe we don't know. See, they know stuff, they know, because they saw slavery from a different angle than the white people and us. See what I mean? They saw it from a different angle. They know their chiefs and the stories that was passed on through their tribe. They have certain stories about Africans that were brought over. And, they said when the first Black man that they saw, they said that we were cooked to perfection, meaning we were darker. Our skin was darker than theirs. And they would say that they said that when they brought them off of the ship and the first encounters they had with us, they said that they were cooked to perfection. So that lets you know that we came from somewhere else and we were introduced here. Now that's not to say that there were some there were some people of African descent that was here before the slaves. That's why I specifically said that. There was tribes of people like South America, Brazil, and all of those areas. They have the largest population of African people of African descent, probably outside of Africa, outside of that continent. South America
Brazil
has
is the second next to Nigeria.
Right. So what, I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. Like, and when you go to Brazil and you talk to those people of African descent, they'll tell you that people came from West Africa. They don't say, oh, we just always been here and we never. They'll tell you they have connections.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So who is these Negroes running around in America talking about we ain't got no connection? That's the problem I have. See what I mean? That's spreading misinformation.
Even in the Amazon says thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, our ancestors are come from Africa, and that's why we have the lip plate, because there's a certain Amazonian tribe
that have
live in the Amazon. They have lip plates like the lip plates we see in Africa.
And they also
the elder of that Amazon tribe said that they come from Africa.
And they also have those rings on their neck. You know those rings when they stretch?
Yes,
that's African too.
Yeah.
So come on, like you gotta like stop it. Like stop with the misinformation for real. Like that's the problem. That's the problem I have.
Right, and there's also some tribes. So I think it's somewhere in the Pacific Islands. I can't remember what Pacific Island it is, and it just slipped my mind. I had it too, but anyway. They were saying that they're from Tanzania. and they look Tanzanian. They just have the long black hair. But if you look at a Tanzanian today with the slanty eyes and the round face and the nose, they do resemble them. But they also said that they come from Tanzania, the Fiji. They're
So
from the
who we
Fiji
gonna
Islands.
believe?
It's
Who
the
we gonna
Fiji Islands.
believe?
These three group of girls were being interviewed, and they said that that's where their ancestors are from, Tanzania. So I
So
just
look.
saw the Amazon, Tanzania, and we can just keep going, you know.
So who we gonna believe? The them or these Google guys running around nowadays in 2022? Who you gonna believe? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm just
Well, you see, a lot of these guys like Dane Calloway, he has a lot of followers.
a lot.
Now, that's because a lot of his followers, they don't do the research. They love to be fed information. You know, they love the comfort of America. So they really
Right.
never even contemplate leaving America and not having that privilege of being called American. You know? Yeah, I was about to show this. You can, all of you can see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. You
Yes,
can
we
listen.
see it.
With this screen share before I reach on the ancestors is from the Temple of Warriors in Chichen. Is it? Chichen Itza. That's in the Americas. This right here. In this, you can see the blacks.
Now, this was the interview I did with Melanated Empire some years ago.
Chasing out these white people. You can see that way. Because in all their iconography, the blacks always held a title of chief or priest. So all these to the bottom of the screen, you see all those with looks like they got armor or something on their backs there. Could be tools or a spear or what have you. Right. Those are the black people right there. Yes. And they mix with, because we found a cemetery and they got Africans buried with Taino women. So that shows you they were intermarrying, you know, until when they have the light Indian or Asian or Taino. A lot of them mixed also with the European. Because you know that the European used to sleep with everybody. Yes. Ah, there we go. That's a close-up picture of the first image you showed me. Yes. Beautiful. Because the first image, they were a bit light skinned, so someone might say, oh, yeah. Although you did identify that they were mixed as well. Mixed people. Yeah. That one looks brilliant. So those you say are Africans who are chasing away these Caucasians there. Yeah, the Vikings. Some people say they're the Vikings. Okay. And you can see the.
So this is found in the Americas. Okay.
They even bond them with rope. I mean, with feathers, really. So you can see that we were there long before Columbus and all them people there. But the thing is, where did we come from? And the whole thing is, as most of us are not remnants of these people, because in this book I'm going to go into, I'll show you the amount of the people that died, and like I went into the the history of Saint Lucia, showing how many of people in the census, how many Caribs there were. 47.
Okay. Yeah, so that's just a piece. That's the part two. There was a part one we did as well. If I put out a lot more information, I read some books. Yeah. So, that's a thing I've even battled in St. Lucia as well, with people saying we're not African. I was like, what? But when you look at us, we we can pass as Africans. You can go nowhere else in the world and find people that look exactly like you. So where is this coming from? This is coming from the internet. Internet, because most people, they don't read, they don't have time to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And because of that emotional idea, we have other lies, one on top of the other, because one lie cannot stand. Truth can stand on its own, but one lie, it's a cripple. So they had to get more lies and more lies and more lies, and then disrefute everything that they've learned at school. And that's what slowly happened. So we're dumbing ourselves down.
You see, when
Trying.
that's why I said when I went to Ghana, that just gave me a. That's why I could agree with some things he was saying, and then I could disagree with some things he was saying, because I saw my great grandfather twin, I saw my great auntie twin, I even saw my twin, I even saw me.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people a lot of Jamaicans that I know right there in Ghana. I
Yeah.
could bring them right to their people if they would believe me to go.
Mm-hmm.
My granddaughter's mother, I saw where she's from. Same exact face. I even told her the father, my son's daughter's mother, father, my granddaughter's grandfather. I even told him I saw your people in Ghana, because I had maybe like 2 months later I had just came back. And this was in 2012, and he was like, "Yeah, for real, they Jamaican from St. Thomas, but then they don't go with Africa. They go with Jamaican. They on nationality nonsense."
Yeah.
But I let him know that I saw his people in Ghana. And I said, I saw a girl that looked just like Crystal. I swear she could be related to you. You could be related to them,
Of course.
And he chuckled with a surprise, like, he's heard that before, that we're African, but they don't want to, relate to Africa. They want to relate to their nationality and say they're Jamaican. But you'll never find Jamaican coming out of your genealogy or your DNA. It's never going to say Jamaican.
Yeah,
So I
because
kind of like shocked him. He was surprised, shocked, happy, sad, all in one. So when I see my great grandfather look alike, I'm like, yeah, that's where that 5% Ghana come from. That was in my DNA report.
Yeah.
All right. When I see my great auntie, this is my grandmother's sister. When I see her look alike, this woman was younger, but she looked just like my Aunt Olivia. All right. In Ghana. So my great grandparents' roots is Georgia. Georgia have a heavy traffic of the Gullah Geechee, which are direct descendants from Africa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, don't let it.
So when I saw that DNA, I didn't say, "Oh, this can't be 100% accurate." Maybe it's not 100% accurate, but it's in the 90s. It's in the high 90s accurate, because I can see people that I know that's from the Caribbean. I saw them in Ghana. All right. I saw my great grandfather look alike. I saw my great auntie look alike. So it is valid. I don't know who that man was that said that the DNA is not real or whatever. I don't know who he was, but I know when you go step foot on the continent, you get a different perspective. So people can't just come and tell you like, "Oh, that DNA you took didn't matter. It's not real." No, I can tell you it's real.
And
Because
you
when
know what?
I went to Ghana first, and then years later, I took the DNA test. So
And
I
to
went to
add
Ghana
on
in
to that,
2012. I did that DNA test about 4 years ago. It's been 10 years since I've been to Ghana. So 6 years later, I took that DNA test. And it all made sense. It made sense when I got the DNA test back. But if you don't step foot on the continent, or if you don't believe that that's where your lineage come from, then of course you're going to be all over the place with who you are and where you come from. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
And let me
identity.
tell you something. Genealogy and DNA is accurate. That's why they use it to find out why people got diseases and what side of the family is the genetics from. That's why they do it when people have children. They want to know who's the baby father. All those things I named. You know what I'm saying? Married couples do it to find out if they're related or not before they get married.
And it's always someone who hasn't been to Africa, who hasn't took a DNA test to create a narrative that they're, and say that they're not who they, it's just, I don't know. That's just.
And when you go to Africa, they come up to you speaking Tree because they automatically think you from Ghana. And then when they hear your accent, they walk back in shock, like, what? Like they couldn't believe it. Or they're just coming to you and say, Auntie. They just come in and talk to you like they already know you until they find out that you're not from Ghana. Or technically that you wasn't from there. And then they give you these big eyes like they can't believe it because in their mind's eye, you are them. So that's why they come talking to you in Tree. They can speak English there. They don't have to always come up to you and speak Tree, but they do it because they assume. They automatically assume, especially if you're dressing with African clothes on and you're just walking and you're not saying nothing, they're going to pass you and greet you like that. Or if they want to come and ask you for money or whatever it is they're trying to communicate to you, they automatically think that you're from there. And I caught that experience a lot of times while I was there.
Brother Wasar, I was looking for this. I have two pictures that I put right next to each other. One picture is a woman deity that's on the Inca temple, and then it's the same deity found on a pyramid in Sudan. It's the same exact deity. She has the cow horns on her head. The deity and the Inca. I mean, it is the same exact deity. I'm telling you. I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna send it to both of you guys, and I want you guys to see that. How is it a coincidence that it's the same exact deity? It's just a little. It's really no difference in how she looks or anything. The way the position of her head, her attire, the things that she have on. It's an exact same deity, but one is found in South America and one is found in Sudan, and they're both over. They're over 3,000 years old. So how is it that these people over here have the same deity on their pyramid as the people over here? Like, like I was looking for that. That's why I went off a line for a little second, because I was actually looking for that in my Facebook photos. I'm gonna have to show that to both of you guys, and you guys let me know what you think about it. But that's one of the things I use among some other slide PowerPoints that I use to show that like there is a relation. There's a direct ancestral relation between the melanated people who are indigenous to this land and the melanated people who are indigenous to that continent. You know what I mean? That's all. Like, if someone can, if you can just admit that, I'm cool. Like I said before, if you can just, because it's the truth. But when someone totally denies and say there's no connection and there's no bloodline mix or anything, that's the problem I have. You can call yourself an Indian all you want to. It ain't the truth, but if that's what you want to do, that's on you. You know what I mean? But at least admit that every human started from one point. We all came from one source.
Yeah, even Runoko Rashidi said that, and he's traveled all over the world, and everywhere he go, he finds an African presence, whether it's Southeast Asia, India,
Japan,
Australia, Japan, China, the Pacific Islands. He's been in all the little cuts, Vietnam, Cambodia. You understand what I'm saying? There's an African presence all over this planet.
Right.
Even in Europe.
That's all I'm saying. That's really all I'm saying. To make it so, that's really all I'm saying. That's really
like
all
me
I'm.
Personally, I'm never disconnecting from my bloodline on the continent of Africa. I'm never going to disconnect from that. Yeah, I have grandparents on both sides that are from here, but they look Asian.
You got grandparents that look Asian?
I have, okay, so on my mother's father's side, his mother is Creek Native American. She don't necessarily look Asian, but she's a Creek Native American. That's the one who married my great grandfather from Bahamas.
But you know what? They're
right.
they're Asiatic. They're Asiatic descent mixed with African. They're Asian. They're
Yeah,
Asian and African people.
That's
Yeah.
what she looked like. Then
Yeah.
on my father's side, my father's mother's sister, you wouldn't even think she's my aunt because her whole phenotype is totally different. Chinky eyes, lighter skin, the wavy hair. She looks like she's from, let's say, Nicaragua
Okay.
or Honduras.
Mm-hmm. South America, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's why I see that 2.1 Mesoamerica Andean. I know where it's coming from. But when I ask her, you know, is she Indian? Is she Native American? Is she black? She said, I'm black. But yeah, they would say I'm Native American, but she identified as a black woman. You get what I'm trying to say? But she looked like an Asian.
So
You
look,
wouldn't
it's
think
no.
if me and her was sitting next to each other, you wouldn't think we related. But that's my grandmother's sister, blood sister, same mother, same father.
Hey, but you know, that's the beautiful thing about melanated people is we can create any type of phenotype. We can, because I'm the youngest of 7, and I have a sister. My oldest sister looks like Sade. You know that singer Sade?
Yes.
Like her and Sade can look, they damn near like twins. Like, and she has straight hair and she's really light and slanted eyes, and we all got the same parents. And I got a sister that's darker than me. I got another sister that's absolutely the opposite of that. Darker than me and darker than my older sister. And we all, when we sit together, you can tell we all got the same parents, but our skin color and our texture of our hair is all different, you know?
Right.
So that's just a beautiful thing. And I'm, you know, like I said, I'm a globalized African. You know what I mean? I'm an African, but I respect Africans from other diasporas, the Caribbean, here, there. I'm not, you know, I don't discriminate. I just discriminate on misinformation. I don't have a problem with the person. I have a problem with the information. You know what I'm trying to say? Like that's what gets under my skin. The information, this fake narrative that's being spread it like a cancer through our community right now.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's been spread like a cancer.
Sarah Su'inseti was saying a few years ago that there's no way y'all going to tell me that the slave trade didn't exist because Cuba alone got over 2 million count of prisoners of wars that left Africa and ported into Cuba. 2 million on record. In Cuba now. Just Cuba. We ain't talking about America, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad. We're talking about just Cuba.
So you can just imagine how many records they destroyed in America to try to cover up how many Africans they came over here, that they brought over here.
What they do is they burn the slave ships. So that way there's no real paper trail like they did in Alabama when that slave ship called Calita came through. After after the slaves came off the slave ship, they burned the ship down. So there's really no paper trail. But this particular slave ship, the Calita, there was a paper trail because some of his ancestors, some of his descendants are still living. I forgot the name of his. I forgot his name, but his ancestors, his offsprings are still living because he came on PBS, and you can put him next to his grandfather, his great-great-grandfather, and he looks just like him. The same hairstyle, the same eyes, and all of that. From Alabama now. The slave ship ported into Alabama called the Calita. Calita, something like that.
I'm gonna look into that. How do you spell it?
I think CAL. Wait, let me look it up. 2 white men bedded.
Your mic is muted, I think. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Two white men betted that they can go to Africa and get some prisoners and bring them back to Alabama. So they sailed back to they went to Africa, got some prisoners, brought them back to Alabama, burnt the slave ship down, and did their normal thing that they do. Sold them off and did whatever they did. They thought that because they burnt the slave ship that they was going to erase what they did, because back that was the point when I guess slavery was supposed to have been over. So they didn't have no business doing that anyway, but they did it still. And because they know that they were illegally doing that, that's why they burned down the slave ships. And it was many more who did that before, during, and after, just so that way you can't get no paper trail.
And now we talk about the slave trade, and that it didn't. He said it was over exaggerated. It happened.
It's called the last slave ship in Alabama, something like that.
Yeah. So that's I just noticed there's just certain talking points people use. They also that's what they say. It's called what?
It's called the Clotilda.
Clotilda.
The Alabama Historical Commission announced that remnants of the ship found along the Mobile River near 12 Miles Island and just north of the Mobile Bay Delta were confirmed as the Clotilda.
So it exists.
Yeah, they found remnants of it.
That's deep. I mean,
so they didn't burn the whole ship.
Yeah. So the narrative that the slave trade happened, but it was over exaggerated, that's just not true either. You know what I mean? Like that's a certain talking point that I hear certain people use. They use certain talking points. That's one of the talking points that they use. That it wasn't as many slaves that came from Africa over here than you think.
Yeah. See, here we go. Here we go. This ship was scuttled and burned on arrival to hide evidence of the crime, allowing the wealthy perpetrators to escape prosecution. But it didn't burn all the way. That's
because
why it didn't burn all the way, because they found remnants of it just recently. And ancestors that were on this ship, their descendants have a celebration that they do in Alabama every year to give homage to them. So that fact that the numbers was exaggerated, I can't agree with that part, because just the Clotilda alone, and even before the Clotilda, and even the reports I just told you about Cuba got every bit of 2 million. Okay, 2 million prisoners of war that came through that island.
We have to remember.
How do you think the Amistad? Where do you think the Amistad started from? The Amistad left Africa and stopped in Cuba first before it came to America. Before it went to Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah. Remember in the movie, the man asked him, "Did you come here first?" He said, "No, I came from here to here and where I am right now." And the lawyer traced it back to Cuba, because at that time, that's where the slave ships were going and separating everybody between Cuba and the Americas and the South Americas. So the lawyer was able to defend him and say he didn't come straight here from Africa. He stopped in Cuba, and from Cuba he was traded and then sent to Boston, Massachusetts. Watch the movie Amistad. You'll remember. You'll see when
it's been a long time since I saw it. I did see it, but it's been a long time since I saw it.
That's how I know when Seti said that. When Seti came with that high 2 million and so number, I knew he wasn't lying. But I don't talk a lot about history, but I'm not a dummy in that area either. I just don't, grab blast it all the time. You know what I mean? But I know something.
We have to remember too that when the enslaved African didn't come and get married and have a family, the enslaved African was buried.
It bounced around from island to state like nothing.
One would have like 20 children. Breeded by the number one.
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yeah. So when they talk about the exaggeration,
you watch that, you might want to throw up.
Yeah, not even so. A woman would lay down on many women, because I mean that's labor, that's force, that's capitalism. They need a labor force.
That percentage was not low at all. That's the Moorish stuff The Moors come talking that, oh, you know, they came to America and took black people and brought them back to Africa. Yeah, they probably did do that too. They probably was trading back and forth. You bring me one from here, I'll give you one from there. But that's not how it originally went down.
And that's a whole nother story. Them Moors.
A big chunk and a big bulk of them came off that west coast from the top of Africa all the way down to the Cape to the Western Hemisphere through the Caribbean to the Americas. And we keep forgetting that Haiti was the first island in the Western Hemisphere to have slaves before it started spreading out to the other parts of the Caribbean. So Haiti had about 8 or 9, 10 different ethnic groups on the island, but they still found a way to band together under Voodoo to conquer those 3 world powers. That's why when you look at Haitians, some of them could look Nigerian, some look South African, some look Ghanaian, some look Ethiopian. That's why they look more strongly African rooted than someone over here that might be a little more watered down. They don't really have that mix up. And I'm not talking about the mulatto Haitians and stuff like that, the ones that's mixed with the French and everything like that. I'm talking about like Desaline, you know what I'm saying? Toussaint type of African. You know, Fatima, that type of African. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Mackindal. And the
best exactly. And they use places like St. Lucia, Barbados, Cuba, Jamaica. They use those as ports to ship you out to other places. Sometimes you stayed, sometimes you had to go. Sometimes you found your way back to the island that you left 10 years ago.
And that's why I was saying.
That's just how they dispersed us around the Western Hemisphere.
And that's why I was telling
them. Very high. The numbers is very high. Cuba is 2 million alone.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I was telling the young brother that we all the same people. That was my point when I told him that, because he tried to tell.
But I think he agreed. Did he agree with that, Wasar?
Well, what I'm saying is that they should be thanking the people that came from Africa.
That's what I'm talking about.
Because the Europeans conquered, and who were the ones that fought for freedom? Was it people claiming Native American, or was it the African that fight for the freedom of black people in America? Who died and shed blood? Was it the Native American, or was it the African that died to bring freedom in America? Who was it? So how they not praising the African American, but the African American that deliver you all from slavery?
Right.
Not the native. The native were in the reservation camps.
And they still are to this day.
Yeah.
And that's because, see, that's the Moors starting that stuff about there's no way that they came on slave ships and lasted that long, bunched up like sardines, and they come with this theory. You know, they started that.
What about smallpox? Smallpox, the natives could not handle the smallpox. The Africans could, because long before the expansion into what they call the New World, the African had already been in contact with the European.
Right.
But
this is true.
These people were not in contact with the European. So when they got the smallpox, it killed all of them out. Almost all of them.
That's a very good point, because if you really want to go back further, the Greeks went to school in Nubia, in ancient Kemet. The Greeks went to school there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sure did.
You see what I'm saying? So we've been in contact with the European for thousands of years before these native people in the Americas. You know what I mean? The Greeks literally went to school in Kemet. So
that's why the smallpox wiped them out. So the mere fact you're still here because you were immune to the smallpox, that means you're an African.
And I'm gonna say this because my battery's about to go down. It's my batteries that's why my phone keep turning off.
Right.
I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna close. Like I said, I want to apologize to the panel and to the chat and to the young brother who came on. You know, I didn't mean to offend anyone or anything like that. I'm just passionate about what the truth is and what the truth is not. You know what I mean? And
I wish she would have stayed though.
I wish he would have
I
stayed
wish he
because
would have stayed because then
it wasn't that hostile of an environment. I don't think
he
me
would
or
have been
Basar was. I don't really think we were that hostile. We disagreed with him, but I don't think we were disrespectful. And I even apologized to him and told him that, you know, I tried to, you know, and then he said he wished I would have came at him like that earlier. Fine, that's cool, but to just leave and just say, "Oh, y'all came at me wrong," so no, I just feel like that's where you ran. In my book, the way I see it, you ran. You ran from the conversation because your information was being challenged, and you really wasn't pulling up. You really wasn't pulling up the sources. You was doing a lot of talking, but you didn't pull up anything to really back up what you were saying. You brought up one author, and then Wasar already broke that down, and he was a pseudo author. So, but anyway, I just want to say, you know, that wasn't my intentions to do the show like that. I was really trying to just sit back and listen to his information, whether I agreed with it or not. But I realized that I'm so passionate about that particular subject that I just couldn't. I had to say something, and maybe I said a little too much, and for that I apologize. You know what I mean?
it's all right. You know, it is what it is.
Basar, I know you sent me your information, brother, but send it again because I can't find it in my email. Because I want to send you, I want to send both of y'all those pictures that I have, some PowerPoints that I have about the connection between the indigenous people of the Americas and the people of the Nile Valley. You know, I have some information on that, and I want to send it to you guys, and you guys let me know what you think about it.
Okay, no problem.
So with that, go ahead.
I spoke about that in the video about the travels of, they say, even Ramses III later sent some ships out there.
Yeah, they found artifacts in the Grand Canyon. They found Kemetic, they found Medu Neter writings and statues and deities and some other things in the Grand Canyon some years ago. You know, so that is.
Look into it. I've heard people say that, but I'll have to look into that. You
know? Well, it was a cave.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Yeah.
But also after that, there was the one before Mansa Musa.
The Mali Empire, right?
Yeah, and he sent out the expedition, and he didn't come back. And this time he sent another one. You know, with I think how many ships? Like 1,000 ships.
Yeah, a naval of ships. Yeah, and they never came back.
And they never came back.
Then wasn't that Mansa Musa's brother, right? It was Mansa Musa's brother.
It could be, it was his predecessor. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it was his brother, but either or, Africans from the Mali Empire came to the Americas and never came back. So,
because one ship returned in the first journey. He told them that he told the king that there's a river in the middle of the ocean that just carried the ship away. A river in the middle of
all the way to South America. Yeah, it's a current that goes from West Africa, because some white dudes sailed it not too long ago on a canoe. They rode the current from West Africa all the way to South America, like the Brazil area. It's a current. It's a current that takes you. You don't even need a sail. You don't even need a sail to blow the wind. It's such a strong current that takes you directly to the South America. So, you know, our ancestors been coming back and forth for thousands of years, period. It wasn't no separation. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure we did trade with the people who chose to stay in the Americas. I'm sure West Africans did trade with each other, people on the islands. You know what I mean? I'm sure. So we sitting here arguing about, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get why people are just trying to totally disconnect history like that. Totally trying to erase that type of history. I don't get it. You know what I mean? I don't understand why we would do that. But with that being said, I'm gonna sign out. You know, I'm definitely send you guys that information that I got, the pictures, because I want y'all to see what I'm talking about. I'm telling you, it's gonna blow your mind when you see it. You're gonna be like, wow.
So Friday we got Reggie Juzang from Novatech, and he's going to talk about the Nova technology, which is a better way to invest and earn interest on your monies versus putting it in a traditional bank or a traditional credit union. It's a whole different topic on Friday. And then Sunday, Priest Isaac.
Oh, okay.
Now I got a feeling Sunday is going to get like today. So we gotta kind of hold our cools, okay?
I'm always cool. I'm always cool.
I'm the one that gotta.
I know the persons in the temple. There are some guys in the temple that love to shout and and raise their voice and So I just speak the truth.
I'm gonna keep.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to keep my mic on mute for not the whole situation, but I need to learn how to, you know what I'm saying, humble myself when it comes to certain
what the
things.
topic is. Remember what the topic is. We're talking about the Bible, so it's going to be a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions involved.
Oh man, that's a whole nother. See, that's another thing that just irritates me. This Bible thing, these people keep believing in. That's another thing that gets under my skin.
And that's why they get loud, like what Sarah was just explaining, and screaming and emotional, because that's all they know, and that's all they want to know. That's all their mind's eye could show them. They can't expand their consciousness because they so closed up and so dried up in their growing process that even if they wanted to, they'll probably get a headache. They'll probably get sick. They'll probably catch the flu.
Okay, well,
they'll literally catch the flu. You hear me? They will catch the flu.
Yeah, they'll physically get sick. It'll physically make them sick if you take the Bible out of their life.
Yes, that part.
So I'll remain humble. I'm gonna do some self-check and some self-evaluation. I'll remain humble and stuff, but
because you're yelling and they yelling, we ain't gonna get nowhere with that. You know what I mean?
You see, the thing is the perception of Rastafari. Is your perception of Rastafari. What is the aim of Rastafari? The aim is to discover your history and to seek out who you were before colonization, your culture, even your language, your dress, to re-Africanize yourself. So we're not an ordinary religious group, or no. We're constantly on the search to rediscover what it is to be an African.
But they can't let the Judaic go. The Judaism is in their blood now. They can't let it go.
That's the problem. Now, you can hold it for yourself. That's all well and good. But if you want to open a school, what do you teach them in the school? The African history? Or you teach them
Jesus?
Right. European history, of course.
Because when it's for you, personal, you can use it. But when it's time to teach, now that's something we never take into consideration. We're always talking about how we feel and our faith. Because if you read the Bible, it has a lot to do with a connection with you and the Almighty than it has to do with you and the community.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Bible, when they read, they get this superstition, and they start to think they're holier than others, that they're closer to God than others.
Because they read that book. They think the book makes them closer to God.
Of course, if you know the pages by heart, it's the words of God. So if you know the words, I used to think so too. when I was
And
a
they
young.
don't think it's patriarch. They think there's a lot of balance with men and women in it. They don't think that it's narcissist. They don't think that
It's
it's
misogynist. It's
misogynist.
misogynistic. Very misogynistic.
If you use that word, you might blow their head off their shoulder. Misogynist? They don't think they're misogynist. They don't think they're patriotic. They don't think pedophilia. They don't think pedophilia is in the Bible.
Oh, that's all through it. If you think that you came from a woman's rib, you're very misogynistic. I mean, if you think a woman came from your rib, you're very misogynistic. Period.
Well,
like that is.
Who was the name of the first woman? What was the name of the first woman?
They're gonna say Eve.
In the Bible, the name of the first woman was Adam, not Eve.
Why? Because Adam gave birth to Eve?
No, because the Bible, you see, these are the contradictions in the Bible. Because God created both male and female, and he called them Adam.
Is that in the King James?
But in science, they're talking about the atoms, the molecular atoms within your DNA and your cells.
That's right, the atoms.
In your body.
Yeah, but
and they split, you know?
So,
but we can't even have that conversation with them, Kufu, because they're not ready yet.
No, that's a different levels. You see?
Yeah, their mind can't expand that far.
You see, Priest Isaac comes on an esoteric level, but he mixes it with history. So it's kind of a patchy patch, you know? He throws some esoteric there, throw some history there, then throw some esoteric there, and throw some history itself, you know? But if you watch the Bible in itself, although it has these synchronicities in numerology and cosmology and stuff like that, it still is in the context of a nomadic civilization of robbers and thieves. That's the whole setting of the people in the Bible. They come, take your thing, kill you, take your woman, all blessed by God.
Yeah, and then the guy tells them, yeah, you can go pillage, go kill man, woman, child, old person. It's verses in the Bible that he says that. He actually lets tell the children of Israel, yeah, y'all can go like kill the Canaanites and just take their land from them and kill all the women.
Whatever young girl you want.
Yeah, take their gold and their silver. It tells you that. And then, you know, if that's the God in the Bible telling you that, you're going to, you know, think that it's okay to do that.
And God gets his share, you know. God gets his share of the plunder.
You know what I always tripped off of? How the God in the Bible never kills Satan. I feel like Satan is a hitman. Satan, they work together. They do business together. Like, he allows Satan to exist. He allows Satan to exist.
Right. He'll kill an innocent woman, but he won't kill Satan.
Of course. Because in his meeting, he was asking, Satan, where have you been?
Yeah, Satan like to and fro. You know, I've been doing this and that, killing a few people here, you know, trying to get as many souls as I, you know, trying to.
Why would you ask somebody evil where they been? Why would you care where they been?
I mean, they talking like they friends. Like, hey, where you been?
Course.
What's up with you? What you been doing? Oh, I've been, you know, doing your will. I've been doing what you let me do. Oh, is that right? All right, let's make a bet. Let's gamble with Job. Let's gamble with Job, basically. You try to do all this stuff to him, and I'm gonna sit back and see if I got him brainwashed enough to still believe in me. That's what happened, right? So the devil kills all his children and his whatever, messes them up real bad, and Job is so brainwashed, he still believes. It's like, and they're both gambling, you know, but this God in the Bible he's supposed to be the enemy of Satan, right? How are y'all both
I'm telling you, Sunday gonna be something else.
It's twisted, man. That is a
But
twisted.
you know,
That's
we
twisted.
coming with facts and figures. You know, I got my 4-point crossroad diagram that I'm going to bring out, and they could go where they want to go with that. But I know they could get very disrespectful. They could get very ignorant and very disrespectful. So I hope that they don't go there, but they might not like the backlash because this is a whole different vibe right here. They don't really know who they're dealing with. They really don't.
Yeah.
They really don't.
I'm
But it
not
gets
gonna argue with
disrespectful
nobody.
when they run out of gas. So
I'm
the
not
next
gonna
thing is,
argue with anyone. I'm not going to. I'm gonna let them. You know, I'm gonna just try to stay humble about the situation. If I know what to expect, I can handle it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna. You know. I'm just gonna question their book.
I'll be teaching them Rastafari history. How Rastafari started, you know, with General Taki, the Maroons, the Obia and the drums, the spirit possession, the Naya
oh, they don't
Bingi.
want to go there. They don't want to go there. That's too
No,
much
Naya Bingi,
of obia and witchcraft and
well,
voodoo. They don't want to go there.
the Naya Bingi is spirit possession.
I know.
You know, when you in
And
the
she
Naya
was a
Bingi,
woman. Mm-hmm.
when you in the Naya Bingi and you start to dance, and it's a spiritual possession of the Great Mother. You know, and we have the fire. We're supposed to have the water as well. We have the earth on our feet, you know, and the air, the elements. We have the 12 posts representing the constellation, the center post representing the sun. This is
You
the
know.
mystical aspect of Rastafari, but
And you know, brother, that is no different than spiritual systems in West Africa. It's the same. It's actually the same. What you just explained. See, I don't know that much about Rastafari, right? But from what you're explaining, there are systems in West Africa that do the exact same thing. The drum, everything you just explained, right? There are other systems.
But they'll say no because they'll have the Bible tied to it. So it won't be
God.
African spiritual system. It's Abrahamic because the Bible
Oh,
is tied with it. They
wow.
got all of that was here said, but now they're reading the Bible with it.
Wow. The Bible is just tainting. It's tainting the spiritual system. It's tainting it. It's taking it away from its original form. What
Exactly.
it's originally supposed to be.
Exactly.
Rastafari must be prepared to change and adapt to new information because
They don't want to.
we didn't start off concentrated. We started off diluted. So right now we have to get the raw element and try to concentrate ourselves again, make our Africanness strong again, you know, because we were watered down. You know? So we have to go and take the original thing so we can get back our African essence. That is what Rastafari refused to do because they are trying very hard to keep Haile Selassie within the Bible.
Right.
Now, to change their doctrine, you know, and drop the Bible, they find it very, very, very difficult because that's
So
all
what
they know.
about Ori? That's from Kemet. And what about Haile Selassie making reference that he loved the Book of the Dead and the Book of Isis and how you should practice yoga?
Yeah. So his
So what
majesty,
about that? Because we can't just find him in the Bible and then ignore what he said about the Book of the Dead and then ignore what he said about the Book of Isis and ignore what he said in 1967 in India, Calcutta, India, when he was practicing yogic breathing.
yeah.
And said if it
Just
wasn't
sweep
for
all of that
yoga,
under the rug, huh?
he said if it wasn't for yoga and its various stages, imagine how poorer the Western mind would be. But you bring up yoga to some of these elder Ras or middle-aged Ras or Ras in general, they're looking at it as pagan. You talk about Kemet, like Haile Selassie said he liked the Book of the Dead and he liked the Book of Isis. They don't want to hear that. You talk about Ori when he say his bloodline is older than David and Solomon. It goes back to King Ori. King Ori is from Kemet. Even if he was from originally Ethiopia, he traveled to Kemet. Same, they're the same people. They didn't see each other as different like we see this stuff different. So even if he did start out in Ethiopia and found his way in Kemet, Ori is still Kemet to Haile Selassie. He said his bloodline is older than David and Solomon. It goes as far back to King Ori. But when you say this to these closed-minded ones, they can't address that, or they have some lame excuse that has nothing to do with what we're saying. And then that's when the name calling comes, because they start running out of gas and running out of stuff to say, and they realize that they can't match your mentality. So it gets real sticky and it gets real childish and petty. You know what I'm saying? To where they force you to call them old fools. They force you to call them, slave children. They
So that's what happened.
They force you to go there on them.
So that's what happened the last time that you guys talked to them about that. They start getting disrespectful and start running out of gas and running out of stuff to say, or what?
Well, I saw the recording that Wasar did with them. He did like 3 or 4 parts with him, and each time it got sillier and sillier, dillier and dillier.
Yeah, well, the brethren, when I spoke
It
with
got
them,
worse and worse. So they disrespected a sister named Frequency.
yeah,
Disrespected another sister from South Africa when she was trying to tell them, leave the Bible. We don't need that. They use the Bible against us during slavery. Why are you holding on to a slave book? We're so much greater than that. They called her a feminist. Now, what the hell do a feminist have to do with her saying to leave that Bible alone because they use it to hold us down in slavery, etc., etc.? What do feminists have to do with that? Well, because they run out of words to say, they have to call her a name now.
Well, she said she was a feminist. She said she was a feminist, but I see where she was coming from, because the Bible is patriarchal. So I was seeing.
I don't think she's calling herself a feminist in a negative light. I think she was saying is that she represents the matriarch, and they're representing the patriarch, which there's no balance in that. I got where she was coming from. They did it to be facetious.
Yeah, she's asserting her power as a woman. She's asserting her power as a woman because men alone are speaking, and we're dealing with a patriarchal book. So she came letting them know that she's a woman and she can stand on her own 2 feet, and she knows what she's talking about. So I get that. You have to allow people a leeway to say certain things, because you have to check in the essence of what they're saying.
She's going with it, yeah.
So she started speaking. I said she was making a lot of sense, but the brothers started to get on and call it a feminist.
Just banging on the feminists, yeah. Nothing else. He can't think of nothing else but that. Mm-hmm.
So
yes, so that's the aggravation that you're going to have to look forward to, Kufu. You might have to snap. I don't know. It just depends where they go with it.
I don't want to snap.
I see you could go in, so I know you ain't got a problem.
Well, I don't know. Thing might be there. What's his name? Adonis. Ras Adonis might be there. He spoke of you. He spoke of you the last time. He said he agrees with a lot of things you say. He agrees with you.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
He agree with me?
Yeah. And he said, yeah, you see you see because certain things yeah. So certain things we say, you can't go around it. You're only fooling yourself. Certain things.
Like, for example, how can they justify Job? How can they justify the story of Job? Make that make sense, how God is talking to the Satan himself and not destroying him, but actually making a deal with him. Making a deal with the devil, literally, is what he's doing. And allowing someone who loves him to be his family be killed, him to have boils on his skin, his animals got killed. You sat back and watched the devil do this to this person that loves you so much, right? Make that make sense. That I'm gonna figure. I got some stuff to say.
And Noah sleeping with his daughter. Make that make sense.
And it's other stories too, like the story where it was the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Where the guys wanted to sleep with the prophet, but he gave the daughter, the prophet gave the people his daughter to sleep with. Remember I was telling you about that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lot
Yeah,
gave up,
you know, yeah.
Lot gave up his daughters. He said they were virgins, but they were not virgins. Each of them had their husband. So all of these are certain contradictions in the scriptures. A lot of contradiction. So I will speak of some of them on Sunday. These are things you cannot get around. You cannot get around these contradictions. For instance, they say that out of heaven
Oh, they
there,
gonna find a way to get around it.
there was one like one source of for the river Gihon, the Tigris, the Euphrates, Pishon, and we know, of course, through geography that the Nile, which they call Gihon, its source is Lake Tana, the White Nile, the Blue Nile of Uganda. They meet in Khartoum. So we know that's the source of, but that's not the source of the Tigris and the Euphrates. So that's a geographical error. So there are many, 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 strong contradictions in the Bible. God says He's all powerful. Then He has a problem with iron. He cannot defeat chariots of iron. Yeah. A lot of when you go
Oh
and you
yeah, I like that one. I like that is a good one. Like
know,
God even said, I can't defeat them irons. I can't defeat the chariots of iron.
but remember Jacob wrestled with God, and he won. But God cheated. He twisted. Why twisted? His thigh. He held his thigh and he twisted and he won the match.
And you know, it's another verse where he say, you know how it says God never fears in the action never interferes in the doings of man, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you harden the Pharaoh's heart. You directly harden the Pharaoh's heart to not let Moses and the people, the children of Israel, go. So you directly intervene in the actions of man. But in one other verse, it say, oh well, he don't get in the act and in the doings of man.
A
But
lot of contradictions.
we could just
And
go
it,
down
it,
the
it give
list.
you it give you a headache reading it and thinking about it.
Yeah.
Listening to it gives me a headache. That's why they so confused. No wonder they so confused.
They said to put a mark on each house. So when the whatever that comes,
The angel of death.
so they know whose house, who is
Who to
who.
Who's out the
kill,
past
and
and
who
whose
not to
house to
kill.
kill. Exactly.
But if God is all knowing, they have no need to put a mark.
He don't need a marker. Right. If he's all knowing, all seeing, all knowing, he don't need a marker.
Hey, you
He
know
know which
something that
one is what.
you know something that I realized about that verse like a few months ago, as much as I've read the Bible, and I thought it was kind of funny, but it actually ain't funny. But it was just funny that it was just when it talks about it killed the angel of death didn't just kill the people who didn't have the blood. It killed the cows. It killed the servants of the people. Like
Right.
God killed.
Like
You
what the
killed
cow have to do with it? The cow not
what
going to
the
have no
cow?
same blood. He's a cow.
Why you kill the cow?
We don't have the same bloodline anyway.
Why you killed the servants? People just like you killed the servants and you killed the animals, the cow, like you killed the firstborn of the cows. Not only did he send the angel of death to kill
The
the
firstborn of
firstborn of
everything.
everybody. He killed the firstborn of the servants, the firstborn of the cows, the animal, like the pets, like whoever was the firstborn, he just killed everybody. What type of God is that? What type of God is that? You
Well,
know, like
it's not the African God.
it's
the
definitely
God,
not.
it's the God of
The Abrahamic.
the pirates, the robbers, the thieves, people that don't build civilization, that take what you have, kill you, rape you, and ask for forgiveness.
And God said it's okay.
Now God said when you come from war,
That's right.
you go and you purify for 7 days. And then you, after I think 7 days, you wash your clothes. So you purify from all the bloodshed and all the rape and all the murder and all the things. And then
now you're saved again.
And then you pure right now, you pure again.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go into the culture of the Bible, you'll see it's very anti-African. Even
that's
something
true.
Even something like religious intolerance.
That's
Religious
true.
intolerance is something that doesn't even exist in Africa. We have so many different gods. Africans never fight over who's God, because the African nobody knows God. The European is the only ones that decide. They know God, they know the name of God, they know where God is, they know God is a man, preferably a blonde hair and blue eye man in heaven. So they presume to know something that the human
this is going to actually be hilarious, though.
You know?
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Because
I'm not gonna take it personal.
It's gonna be a lot of meltdowns.
I'm not gonna take it personal.
It's gonna be elders melting. People that you would love to look up to and seek counsel from. Nah, not the way they melt. You're not gonna feel like this is someone I can seek counsel from. And that's the sad part about it. Because half of them I can't even go to for counsel. Because everything that they're gonna say is geared in the Bible. Nothing outside of their own, nothing from their own thought process. It's all King James illusion.
And you know something else that Mfudishi brought to my attention, Baba Mfudishi brought to my attention. He said supposedly during the time of the flood, they the ancient Kemet was flourishing during the time that they said God flooded the earth. Ancient Kemet has records of them flourishing during that time.
Exactly.
So what happened? Some magical bubble just why is it that the pyramids didn't get destroyed and that culture get destroyed during the flood? Because they were thriving. They were thriving during that time during the flood.
And he also said no Hebrews built the pyramids. But anyway, go ahead.
And that too. But supposedly the only people that survived the flood was Ham, Shem, Japheth, and Noah and their wives, right? But you can go and read the Medu Neter during that time and see they did speak of a great flood. They do speak of a great flood, but it didn't flood the whole earth. It didn't flood the whole earth.
That's because the Nile River, it overflows at a certain time of the year. And then it settles back down at a certain time of the year. That's
but it didn't flood.
But it's not the whole earth got flooded. No, of course not.
But see, that's the lie. That's the lie right there. The whole earth got flooded, and Noah made a boat and put all the animals. So you got a male ant. Think how many animals, from the ants to the elephants. Think how many animals that there are on this earth. You mean, how did you find the time
to pick each one?
To pick a different species of ants. Think how many different species of ants and butterflies and
here's the question. Did Noah take 2 of every animal and bring into the ark?
That's what it say.
No, it doesn't say that.
What does it say?
It said 7 of the clean and 2 of the unclean.
What?
Contradiction. Type it into your computer. You can go ahead and type it in your computer.
I'm gonna look into that, because some Bibles say he took 2 of each animal. You know, there are different Bibles. You know, there's different versions of stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
like about 30 different versions.
And the thing is, this is Genesis, but the Most High doesn't give the commandment of clean and unclean animals yet.
Yeah, because he doesn't do that until you get into like Exodus and things like that, right? Right?
Yeah.
This is, hey, you know what? I'm gonna
After
have to do some
Genesis, when he started talking about what's clean and what's not clean, it's still in the Old Testament, but it's
Yeah,
not in
that's it's in
Genesis.
Leviticus. It's in Leviticus.
Leviticus and right, exactly.
It's in Leviticus in the Old Testament.
These are the contradictions. Now you cannot run from them.
But when you point them out to certain ones, they will have an excuse for that. They'll have an answer for everything, even if it's the dumbest answer you will ever hear in your time on this planet Earth. They're gonna give it to you.
So I'm just gonna stay focused on the Bible because I don't know. I'm just a student. I don't know anything about Rastafari enough to even speak on it. I'm gonna allow Brother Wasar to do that, and I'll just support. I'll support his points when it comes to the Bible, and I'm just gonna tear the Bible apart because I can do that very well. I'm gonna tear that apart. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna just focus on that. So,
Right.
you know,
right.
and
Yeah, I'm gonna touch both sides. I'm gonna touch both sides.
okay, I'm gonna stay on my strong point. I don't know enough about the Rastafari to speak on it. I feel like I'm not educated enough on it.
I know. You see, I was fortunate to have a teacher, and I turned as Rastafari at a very young age. So I kind of we grew up as a Rasta. So I know of the history. I know the way the elders think. I know Nyabingi. I know drums. I know chalice. I know all these things. I know chants. But the chants are still a mimic of Christian chants. You know?
That's
And
crazy.
Yeah, the hymns, Kufu. The hymns that really keep them locked in that slave mentality.
Yeah,
And then
that's
the
crazy.
Bible, the hymns. Abraham all the way.
When I was a youth, I remember going to a bingy and there was this elder Ras. And the elder Ras was saying, Jesus Christ never exists. And as a youth man, I said, well, what are Ras talking about then? I try to grasp what the Ras talking about and I can't grasp it. And no one else in the bingy, like, he was a kind of secluded Ras. And all the other Ras agreed.
And he was right. And he was right.
And I was a youth man, I tell you, a youth man, maybe like, what, 20, 19, you know, and I listened to the Rastaman. I say, but where the Rastaman coming from? Because I know that until I end up linking up with my cousin, that is my elder, and he exposed me to Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark, you know, my African history. And
the elders,
then
great
it started
ancestors.
making sense, right?
Yeah,
then it started making a lot of sense.
Started making sense, and he told me that because I mean, one thing as Rastafari, you know your Bible, and you, because I used to put scriptures inside of me so I can chant them whenever I want, you know. I always used to walk around with my little testament, you know. But he now, that knew his Bible very well, went to Jamaica. But he went to Jamaica after he had a reggae band. And sometimes he knows people like Dennis Brown, you know, Gregory Isaac. He'll tell you, we'll sit down, he'll talk to me about them, how, you know, thing. And he told me he had a band and they dismantled the band because they said these are the instruments of Baal. Maybe electronic music and them thing. They go back to the Nyabingi drum. So they mash up the band. So he was feeling so bad and thingy. He said how he had to get to the bottom of that philosophy. So he went to Jamaica. And when he got to Jamaica, he realized that the Nyabingi was flourishing off of the money of the reggae singers. So he was talking to the elders, and the elders tell him, Abdul, you're not a African race. You're a Bible dread. And they made him listen to Dr. Ben.
I told you, Kufu, it didn't start out biblical.
For the first time, he watched Dr. Ben. And he said, what? There were people before Adam and Eve. And then he started to collect a lot of DVDs and tapes, the cassettes. That time there wasn't no internet, so a lot of cassettes and books, and that's when I was connected with him from that time as a youth up to now. But the origin of Rastafari came from the Kumina, from the Congo, and then Christian aspects were added to it, like most of the other
Religions of
religions
today.
that came from West Africa, like the Obia, Candomblé, Santeria. They had their Christian saints, and so Rastafari morphed into that European, that Bible, and mixed with the African orientation, you know. And so they came to it, but they had Mortimer Plano. There was also Edward Emmanuel Charles, and they had Prophet God as well. Now there was a rift between Edward Emmanuel Charles and the next was, but basically I think Bongo Watu. Now these two took Rastafari from the framework of a political struggle of African people, and they took it into religious doctrine. So Bongo Watu was Nyabingi, and then Edward Emmanuel Charles the Bobo Shanti. So they took on a priesthood, and that took them away from the very essence of the political struggle of Rastafari.
That's why there's no. That's why the liberation is watered down. The warrior spirit is not there
Yeah, it's not there
because
because
they took
everybody
on the
don't
Christian
want to be a priest.
attributes like a real Christian would do. You don't see Christians out here fighting,
Yeah, because the Bible teach you to turn the other cheek.
right?
If your enemy slap you or do anything to you, just pray over it.
Exactly.
Jesus said, resist not evil.
Hmm.
And if you watch the Bible and you watch God, God is a God of bigotry. He's a bigot. He has his chosen people.
And see, when you say that, they call you evil. They say you Set or Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel, right? They call you Cain.
Because
They call you evil. They say
we
you
have our
toxic.
African cosmology.
Hmm.
We have our African cosmology. Why not return to it? Instead of always trying to take away everything you learn about Africa, you try and frame it inside the Bible. Just leave the Bible and go towards your African history, even though you have to start learning from scratch. Yeah, learn your African history, but to always take it and try to put it in the framework of the Bible, assume that these people
It
Exactly.
doesn't
don't
fit.
change their names, but they're characters in the Bible. And you try all type of way, you bend this way, bend that way, backwards, forward, you try all kind of to try to fit African stories into the Judeo-Christian concept of divinity.
It never
Exactly.
fits. It never fits. You can't fit. You
It
can't put
fits for them
something.
though.
Because
It fits for them.
in Africa, there are languages you don't get words that are based on gender. You don't get words that are based on gender, like him, her. You don't get these words in certain African languages. Because Europeans have a polaristic way of looking at life. They don't watch it as a whole. That's why you say they're left brain, because they can dissect things but never see the big picture. And this is where most people are at. They don't see the big picture. Rastafari in itself, a lot of them don't see the big picture of bringing back to the people and what it takes. It takes a lot of study. It takes a lot of reading. Now
And
this is
some of them don't,
this
really
is what
read
we
like
trying to
that.
run from, but we cannot run from it. We cannot watch documentaries alone. We have to hit the books. you know. And there's a lot of books, a lot of information. Like just today, I was reading a book
Yeah.
about great Pan Africanists, and I was reading because when you read those books, you get names, and you don't want to just read a name and it like ignore an ancestor. But at your fingertips, you have the computer to see at least what that person looked like, you know. And if they wrote books, try and read. If you don't read the full book, but just try to see their flow, and you get an essence of them, you know. Because right now, books become more fun when you're reading because when you see things in there, you can go and type it up and you can further the knowledge base. So when you read it, you understand exactly where they're coming from. You know,
Yeah.
one exercise we have to encourage, especially amongst the youth, to go into the history. The history is important because it's through the history you where you are today, and you don't rely on history on things now to plan for the future. You rely on things you learned in the past to plan on the future. So all that really
Mhm.
exists really is what we call the past. That's all that really exists.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what we use to analyze the future, analyze the present. So that's what it
Hmm.
is. You know? But in
Exactly.
our minds, we think the past is something. we- No, the past is,
Right.
you know, because the tree is as strong as its roots. The deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. So the further you can go into the past,
Hmm.
the stronger you become in your culture. You know?
That's true.
Yeah, that's how it is.
That's true. The further you can go back, the more you know. The more you know, the easier and more clear your future is. This the path you take. You know, it's like it's all connected. It's all connected. You know what I mean? And if you disconnect yourself from the past and from your past, how are you really going to know what to do in the present and to create a better future?
Yeah, because if you watch the chakra system have the roots, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart. Now, this energy is also connected to your psyche, the psychology of the human being. Like you have the creative energy, which is your
Hmm.
sexual energy. And if you know how to control your sexual energy, you can put it into different aspects of your lives and create great things. But it's rooted in the root. Now, the root has to do with your grounding, and your grounding has to do with your connection with the universe, which comes through your ancestors. Now, that giving power to the solar plexus, which is your power, that is your self esteem. Your self esteem comes from the knowledge of who you are. And
Those are
with
facts.
yeah, and with the power of them three basic, then you can go on to the levels of divinity, expression, you know, oneness, intuition, through the heart. So it have a lot to do with your self-esteem. Your self-esteem is linked to what you know about yourself. What have your people accomplished? Because all that goes into your self-esteem, the
Yeah.
state of your people. You know? So if your state is from slavery, then that is your self-esteem. But if you know of your greatness, then you walk with your chest high because your self-esteem increases because your possibilities are based on what you've already done.
And
You know?
also what you think about yourself.
What you think about yourself.
Yeah, whatever what you think about yourself dictates the choices you make. And
Choices.
you know what I mean? And if you don't think highly of yourself, you're not gonna make very wise decisions. You know what I mean? You're gonna
Choices.
make you so it all goes together. I totally agree with the science of that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
What
up a
time is it?
bit.
12?
It's after
Yeah,
12.
it's like 12, right? But we
Yeah.
definitely gonna brainstorm Sunday before we go on. Maybe around 7-ish, we could meet and get our thoughts and notes together. So that way,
Yeah.
when we go in there, we're going in with our facts and our figures. Whatever they're coming with on their side is on them, but we know how we're gonna come in. And Raskafra said that he would join us. You
Yeah,
know,
they'll come in the same way they came in the 70s.
I know.
Yeah, the same way they came in the 70s. That's how
I
they'll
know.
come. Priest Isaac alone will put a different spin, but they'll come with the same old thing from the 60s and the 70s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's from the Bible, so it's like there is no new information in the Bible. It's only the same information regurgitated over and over and over again.
But
They
you can't
can't.
add to it. You can't add to it and you can't take away. The Bible tells you can't add and you can't take away. You read
But
about
yet
Even
it's been revised.
even though they come out with a new version of it every month.
Okay, about how many versions? 30 now? Come on.
Yeah, they come
Come
with a
on.
new version of it, but you can't take in and take out nothing. But you come with a new version of it every month, and we still
Mhm.
believe in this crap, you know.
well,
So it's like,
I have the chronology. I have the chronology of the Bible by Dr. Ben. So I have it in there. I'll bring it along.
Yeah, that'd be a good source,
oh
seriously.
yeah, that'll tear them up. That book by itself will tear them up. They won't even be able to answer some of that stuff. You know, they
Oh,
have no
yes, they
answers to that.
will. They'll come
No,
with some ridiculous
let me tell you
excuse.
what they'll come with. They'll tell you Dr. Ben, they don't like Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben is a liar. Dr. Ben is a this because Dr. Ben called Haile Selassie Haile Molasses. And Dr. Ben called Haile Selassie a dog.
So just because he had his personal opinion about Haile Selassie, you're going to debunk all of that truth that he have. Marcus Garvey said something about Haile Selassie too. He called him a coward. So they don't like him either, right? You don't like Marcus Garvey either, right? You're going to disregard everything he did. They need to go somewhere. They're too childish. That's my problem. That's my problem with them. That's my point. That's what I was telling you
Okay, well,
before.
we're gonna set it up nice. We, like you said, we'll meet up early. We'll meet up early so we can get our PowerPoints together and go in there synchronized as one. You know
Sister,
what I
what
mean?
about Sister Sharon? What to Sister Sharon? What to Sister Sharon?
All I know is that they're still trying to investigate if it's a homicide or what. I don't know, but I know one thing: they're not following the Bible, because if they was, they would be protecting the elders, and the elders are not protected. Empress Phyllis is up there blind because she couldn't get to the eye laser. She couldn't get the eye surgery done in time, so she lost her sight.
But so much money.
So they don't care for the elders like the Bible tell them they're supposed to.
Okay.
So anyway,
All right.
we're gonna pick up again Saturday, Sunday, and I'll let you know about Friday with Sarah if you want to listen to the.
Okay. Your mic.
Oh yeah, sorry, yes. So on Friday, I'll send you the link of the brother that's going to talk about the Novatech technology, dealing with managing our monies better outside of the banking system. I'll send you the link if you're available. And then Sunday at 7, we'll meet here. I'll send you the StreamYard link, and then we could brainstorm before we go on, like that.
Okay.
Love
Okay.
and gratitude. Give thanks every time.
All right. Peace and love.
Yeah, Uncle
Thanks to all my listeners for
Uncle
listening
Justin
in.
there, brother.
I had 2 cents.
All right. Peace.